Alrighty, folks, welcome on in to the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. Welcome on in. Hold on one second. All right. Welcome on in. How is everybody doing today? Wow.
So from this day moving forward,
This, I have to say, the politics, like the multiple mainstream news articles and books being published about how important Hassan is and quoting me and saying I'm also important, wow, has just been hilarious. So let's recap. Oh, also, chat, one of the candidates we tried to help has won. Alex Brower has won by 47 votes. If you remember, Alex has been one of our projects, has just won on the city of Milwaukee, beating the Democratic endorsed candidate, Daniel Bauman. Yet another W for us. We just keep winning. Honestly, what can you even say? What can you even say? That's another Milwaukee sewer socialist. If Mike is going to be posted mainstream, tied to improve appearance in order to show the left is all about chat. No. It's just more about health. You know, that's when you're my age, you need to start focusing on your health. And so you can, because you want your 60s to be a time of health, not a time of decline. This is what people don't understand. If you're healthy in middle age, then you're going to put off your dotage by 20 years. This is literally true. So you can spend your 60s and 70s enjoying life and being active, or you can die. And the way you act between, 30 and 50 determines that. So you need to, I mean, not always. Sometimes things just happen to you and it's not your fault. Delta Frost, thank you for the 50 tier ones. But I have to say, now that I'm at the midpoint of my life, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I need to start dedicating myself to more health. And I want to do it the right way. I don't want to take pharmaceutical shortcuts. And it's not that I'm not shaming you. I'm not shaming people who decide to do that, who decide to take advantage of those things. It's just, I don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. And I worry that they are, they don't really understand side effects. And they basically treat you as guinea pigs, So, if something is fucking you up, we won't know about it for 10 years. And then, I don't want to be that guinea pig. I'm not vain. I don't need this shit I'd rather just do it the right way, the basic way. Not as a man, you're safe. We are on our fitness journey. I'm not on anything yet. I'm just pumping myself up. I'm just trying to pump myself up. RFK Mike, no thank you. Mike, have you talked about BSW? I think Hassan just talked about a lot of rad libs and he got the wrong impression of it. Delinky, by what I see, is your average managerial left party that focuses on social issues. My problem with BSW is they're too opportunistic. They seem like they are chasing polls more than they are leading with coherent takes. Like they're kind of triangulating a lot. And I get what they're trying to do. Like, I understand it. I kind of understand it, like what BSW is trying to do, but I just don't agree with it. So it's hard for me to endorse a party that I just don't agree with on major issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think that going like, oh, boy, we like fossil fuel workers. I think that's just cringe. I think that's cringe bullshit. That kind of stuff just really turns me off. So it's not that I hate them. It's just, and I would want BSW to win over like most of the other parties in Germany, but not all of them. So I don't want to like lend my name to something I don't agree with. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do it for a Green Party, so I wouldn't do it for BSW. Yeah, I need to get down to one. Like, my goal weight is 169. My goal weight is 169. Because it's funny. I've already lost. Damn, you must be short. Yeah, I'm not that tall. Unfortunately, chat. My dad is short as fuck, so blame him. My dad was a gymnast and a fighter pilot, so he's short, but he he was very he maximized it. Short but mighty, exactly. He was the shortest of kings. My dad would do like pull-ups according to what his age is. Like, think about that. But now he can't do that anymore, unfortunately. But you know, because he's getting up there. The PT test standard, oh, he did way more than that. What's a good name for our Labor Party? The problem is, no matter what words you use, they've already been co-opted by some scumbag somewhere along the way. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing about the name. The 60-second rant for me yesterday, okay, poodle brains. I'm gonna look at that later. I don't want to watch a clip of myself right now, but I will look at it later. So I would say that I'm 20 pounds down from my heaviest weight. But I think I did that by like quitting drinking sugar. So I think the rest of my weight I actually have to like work for, which is unfortunate. I just drink water now. But Hasanabi and Mike from PA get glazed in media. Honestly, like, the purpose of this title is to piss off as many. Like, I have to say, oh, and by the way, holy shit, somebody dropped a 50 bomb. What the fuck? Techno Dog, thank you for the 10. And Delta Frost dropped a 50 bomb. I was like, wait a minute. Did that happen? Delta Frost, thank you. Have you negotiated with VO so they stop pumping you up? LOL. This is what happens when you... All right. If you've ever been close to a Persian, their love language is giant platters of meat. And if you're like, yeah, I don't want to eat meat, they're like, what? You hate me. So it's like, you can't do that. Delta Frost, thank you for 20 more. You're the king. If I lived with VO, I'd weigh 500 pounds. Honestly, I am heavier now than I've ever been, and I blame myself for that. Mike, I just found out I'm prego, and the due date is September 8th. I Googled that, and it's Bernie Sanders' birthday. LOL, my husband wants to name in a fire name like Solara or Ember, and I was thinking like Roy or my... I don't think you should name your child a fire name, but I get it. I like your names better. Can I just say, Mike, are you a vegetarian? No. Would you consider getting a standing desk or a treadmill sitting bike to do passively during stream? I don't think that's what I want to do. I think that what I want to do is just be an intentional person with a habit. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do a thing habitually. That's what gives me success in life. Habitually doing something. And like, I feel like I won't habitually do that. You know what I mean? We all do cocaine. Nah, I don't do cocaine, man, anymore. You know, like that. First of all, it's a waste of money. Now everything is stepped on with dangerous shit. And it's just really overrated. Hard drugs are overrated. Do you think Bernie is going to do the right thing? No. I think the one problem with Bernie Sanders is that he thinks he's too old. It's not that he's too old. One of the most successful leaders in the history of the world was 90 years old. Like, this happens. You know, old motherfuckers sometimes win. Who gives a shit? It's how like sentient you are, how capable you are of communicating. That's what we need from our leaders today. When was coke good? Tell us you are at 30 without saying it. Yeah, exactly. Before fentanyl became a thing, that was in everything. So I would highly not recommend hard drugs at this point. You can't even trust like E. Like, everything is like, there's been a real adulteration of drugs now. You can't trust shit. Everything sucks. People will put in meth. People will put in fentanyl. It's just like, nah, you can't do any of that these days. Do shrooms count as hard drugs? No. So I just would highly recommend not doing it. Even before fent, they were cutting coke with random shit. Yeah, but the random shit didn't kill you. Maybe you get a sinus infection. You know, maybe you have like some really bad snot for a couple weeks, but like, it didn't kill you. I don't even do anything anymore. I barely drink. VO quit weed, so I don't even do weed. I do nothing. I'm pretty much a teetotaler now. Do you mention the ASMR deportation video the White House posted yesterday? I did not see that. Link me that video. Don't do whatever RFK Jr. is doing. Yeah, well, RFK Jr. is like one of the dumbest people on the planet, so I'll be okay. White House main Twitter page. Don't make, I'm not searching shit. You search it. You want me to watch it. The audacity. The audacity of somebody. Okay, I want you to imagine a room with 3,000 people in it, and you raise your hand and you're like, hey, do you know about this? And I'm like, no, what is it? And you're like, you should look it up. What? The audacity. I'm going to show you. I want you to understand what you're acting like, okay? We're visualizing crowd sizes, okay? This is 1,000 people. This is 3,000 people. This is right now. All right? This is right now. This is what you're doing. You're the guy all the way back here going, have you seen that thing? You should look it up. What? All right, let's keep going. What's the point if Bernie isn't going to leave the Democratic Party? I'm going to keep telling him to do it and hope he does it, you know, and tell other people to do it as well. Did you see the FOIA is disbanded? Hey, Mr. Streamer, did you see that thing? No, yeah, exactly. That's not good. That's illegal, obviously. This is what Joe Biden expanded this funding for, by the way. Just before Trump came into office, Biden massively expanded this. I mean, what could he say? Okay. Yeah. Illegal schmiegel, big deal, cheap meal, for real, no steal, counting the votes, Joe Breel, Joe Biden, Insta Reels. Yeah, you could say I'm a rapper. Oh, no. That's not. Imagine telling someone in the midst of the 2020 uproar that Detroit would last the entire 4 years of a Democratic administration and not even make it into a month into a subsequent Republican administration. What do you mean? He's resigning so he can be replaced by another far right winger. This is the Sandra Day O'Connor strat. Yeah, I'm looking at the FOIA stuff. Good look at that. They just fired the whole privacy team at OPM email address, wrote back. I think one of the things that I would say is like, we have entered accelerationism. By the way, chat, this is 30,000 people. This is what it this is a Hassan stream, by the way. Hassan stream is somewhere in this range usually. Think about that. Accelerating toward what? The brick wall. This is so great. I love how Ethan Klein, can I just say something? I got to make fun of Ethan Klein for a second. Ethan Klein thought that his content nuke was going to do something. Ethan Klein thought that DGG clips were going to do something. Hassan is personal friends with some of the most prominent leftists in the entire world. And Ethan Klein thought his posts were going to do something. Bro, you're famous for your proposing to your wife and while taking a shit. People are not coming to you for their political takes. And the worst part of what's happening to Ethan Klein is he can't escape it. Like, even if he watches what I'm saying and showed it to his stream, which he will not do, Ethan, you are trapped in a spiral of delusion. You have been cooked by your socialization by DGG and Destiny's subreddit. They create these narratives in the in-group, and then they ban everybody who dissents. So you get this idea that what you're doing is some sort of consensus position of regular people. It is not. Yeah, because the video was for Hassan's leftist fans. It didn't make any impact at all. None. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Do you think that somebody like AOC and Bernie Sanders doesn't receive the same kind of unhinged hate that Hassan does? Do you think they're going to look how they're called terrorist sympathizers and traitors and every other thing under the sun? You don't think they get the same exact crap that you're doing at Hassan? It will never work. And in fact, and the thing that's really funny, and it doesn't even matter, I can say this out loud because it's not going to change anything, which is like Ethan Klein did something so stupid that he's basically created an environment of utter impunity for leftists on Twitch, which is just, you attacked senior management of Twitch with false accusations of anti-Semitism. You created fake photos of them with SS uniforms and shit. You've gone and harassed staff at Twitch. Do you think they're going to listen to you ever? Your dumb Dan Saltzman brain, Diddy G brain strategy of personally attacking people at senior levels of Twitch. You think that's going to endear them to your cause? In fact, what you've done is you've accidentally made it so they hate your ass. They hate you now. They're what, like, this is basic human psychology. They hate you. What did you do? I don't know this, by the way. I haven't talked to them. I don't know about this. It's just basic human psychology. People do not like to get bullied. They don't give in. Like, especially people that have like professional success. They're just going to be like, fuck this guy. From now until the rest of time, they're going to be saying, fuck this guy. You're so stupid. I can't believe you got manipulated by destiny. The universe tried to save you, Ethan, by showing a massive scandal with Destiny where he was sexually exploiting his audience and committing crimes. Like the universe tried to intervene and be like, hey, Ethan, wave off, wave off. This guy's a psycho. Hey, Ethan, this guy's a bad guy. Hey, Ethan, wave off, wave off. But he still wouldn't listen. He still wouldn't listen to that. He was like, I don't care who my allies are. That was Ethan Klein. And now the reality is, and the thing is, they're escalating. They think if we yell at and scream at reporters for doing articles that are fair and accurate, like that article at Slate, it went over all of Hassan's major scandals. It talked about all the major scandals. It gave full context. It gave the interpretation you guys wanted to give, but then it also gave Hassan's response. And guess what? Nobody fucking cares. The thing is, you guys cook up. You try to see the thing that Destiny's cult fans like. What happens is they're in a cult. They live in an alternative world, and they create enforcement mechanisms to make sure that their interpretation predominates within their cult. Like that's what they do, and so they think they have some sort of consensus, but it's just them talking to each other. It's a bubble. It's an echo chamber. But he talked to a Houthi. Well, the kid wasn't a Houthi. The guy said he hates Israel. That's it. That's you think you're going to cancel somebody who did a journalistic interview because somebody else said something. Like this is like delusion. This is delusion. You're living in it. You're living in it. And no matter what I say, it'll never get through to you because you have a personal obsession with Hassan. And there's nothing I could do to break you out of it. Because this is occupying his mind in an obsessive loop. And it will not end. It will not stop. Hassan literally admitted he was a Houthi, you stupid piece of shit. They asked the kid and he said no. And even if he was a Houthi, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? What's your point? He thought he was a Houthi when he did the interview. He then asked him, he said he wasn't. If you're going to be a scumbag, get your title. Because they don't care about facts. So he's not, but if he is, who cares? Yes, that's exactly my point. My point is, even if your accusations are true, it doesn't matter. The BBC interviewed the same kid. It doesn't matter. Did you watch Badapadada's video on Ethan Klein sexually harassing a 17-year-old terror victim? Oh yeah, that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. Like there's so much more clips we could play of, like Ethan Klein has no credibility. That's what he doesn't understand. See, Ethan Klein never studied rhetoric. He never studied it, so he doesn't understand that he lacks one of the most important elements, which is credibility. He lacks ethos. This goes back to the Greeks. If you study Greek rhetoric, we have ethos, pathos, and logos, right? Ethan Klein has never established ethos in the political sphere. Nobody gives a shit what Ethan Klein says. He lacks complete credibility. He has no authority, and he's dumber than dirt. Nobody is going to give a shit what he says, ever. And his fandom, which may look like a large number on YouTube, is not a large number, actually, in the context of the world. And that's just, like, basic facts, right? Like, the thing is, like, a lot of DGG fans, which are basically Ethan's fans now, right? Like, a lot of the people that are riding hardest for Ethan Klein are not Ethan Klein fans. They're Destiny fans that are pretending to be Ethan fans because they don't want to defend Destiny's being a sex criminal, right? So they're laundering their attacks through Ethan. And Ethan likes that. He encourages that. because he's obsessed with Hassan. He's obsessed with the fact that Hassan doesn't care about him at all. And that's just the facts. RFK wants labor camps. Oh, Jesus Christ. Did you see this? What's this? New Trump executive order issued last night says the president shall provide authoritative interpretation of law for the executive branch. But they just threw out Chevron doctrine. They just threw out the Chevron doctrine. So they're going to do super Chevron? Like what? The president and the attorney general, subject to the president's supervision and control, shall provide authoritative interpretations of law for the executive branch. Isn't that the judicial branch's job to do interpretation? So he's usurping judicial authority as well? The president and the attorney general's opinions on questions of law are controlling on all employees in the conduct of their official duties. No employee of the executive branch acting in their official capacity may advance an interpretation of the law as a position of the United States that contravenes the president or the attorney general's opinion on a matter of law, including but not limited to the issuance of regulations, guidance, and positions advanced in litigation, unless authorized to do so by the president or in writing by the attorney general. Yikes. This is the RFK Jr. labor camp mention. RFK's plan to make America healthy again, round up people with mental health conditions in camps. HHS is ordered to assess the prevalence of a threat posed by prescription of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, stimulants, and weight loss drugs. Are they going to take Ozempic away from Ethan Klein? That's just a small quote. He's putting president-appointed supervisors in every government agency to make sure they follow the White House's orders. The order repeatedly cites a preordained conclusion that there is an overutilization of medication and an over-reliance on medication and treatment. This is really interesting because on the one hand, the pharmaceutical industry is really, really rich and powerful. And on the other hand, RFK Jr. leads what would you call a group of RFK Jr. supporters? A pratfall? That's what I want to call them, a pratfall. RFK Jr. leads a pratfall of his dopey followers. New GDF 3 minutes ago. Nazism and Zionism. Oh, this seems really interesting.
1995, Zeev Sternhell. Then
we might have to watch that. That sounds pretty good. But maybe not today. I don't know if I'm feeling it. So, anyway, to end my rant on Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein, I would like to encourage you to keep talking about us because you are just going to make me more popular and richer. And you're going to associate yourself with more and more cult-like freaks of a sex pest criminal and everyone normal. Now, you're going to keep some core amount of your audience. Like, I'm not under the delusion that you're going to lose everyone. You won't lose everyone. That's what's so insidious about what's happening is you're not going to lose everyone, but you're going to lose everybody who's normal. And so your audience is just going to spiral into basically an orbiter of destiny at his lowest point. That's pretty incredible stuff. When are you going to watch the Red Pen video about President Xi? They're so long, man. I don't know what to say. I legitimately don't even know what to say about Ethan Klein at this point that hasn't already been said by a lot of other people.
Greetings. This coming...
Like, what could you even say? All right, let's read this Polygon article. It has me and Hassan in it. Twitch's Hassan Piker wants fellow leftists to know having fun isn't bourgeois decadence. A new book excerpt from Stream Big dives deep on Twitch's top stars. Games journalist Nathan Grayson, founder of Aftermath, where he also currently works as a reporter, has a new book out February 18th that spotlights 9 different Twitch creators, their fandoms, how they got their start, and the culture of live streaming that surrounds each of them. You can read an excerpt below of Stream Big, the triumphs and turmoils of Twitch, and the stars behind the screen, focused on Twitch streamer Hassan Piker. Despite a career focused on United States politics, Piker spent most of his childhood in Turkey. And despite popular misconception about the intent of his political ideology, he feels no need to mythologize himself as the main character of a rags to riches tale, or a rags to rags tale, as his critics regularly posit should be his ultimate goal. Instead, he says during a December 2022 interview from his home, he grew up relatively affluent in Turkey after being born in the United States. A switch from private to public school in 4th grade opened his eyes to the cruel realities undergirding modern society. I saw the gardener's kid going to the same school as myself, right? And I was like, holy shit, these dudes are not living the same way that I am. I was taking this for granted, Piker says. And that is where I started realizing that there was something weird about the way we existed on this planet. Did you just accidentally switch your chat out of followers only one mode, or did somebody gift me a sub? You've been following since 21 hours ago. So it sounds like you're just a fan. By the way, 21 hours ago. Was that like an end of stream thing? Nice. Welcome in. Other bits and pieces of a childhood in Turkey further informed Piker's nascent political views. After former Turkish Prime Minister and current President Recep Tayyip Erdogan came to power, Piker found himself frustrated by even silly impacts of a socially conservative regime like Erdogan suing his favorite political satire magazine because of imagery he found objectionable. I just thought it was unacceptable for someone in a position of power to do such a thing, Piker says. During his early years, Piker's parents would bring him on summer trips to America, but it wasn't until college that he moved to the United States. This proved to be an eye-opening experience on several levels. He was so shocked, says his mother, Sadif Piker. He said, "I can't believe these kids, Mom. They're bored. They had everything that all these people around the world would dream of, and they were bored." We just call her Annie. Recep, you pronounce it? I can't pronounce shit. Don't ask me to pronounce names. One of the things that is like really kind of funny about Hassan is really nice and generous and friendly and always gives people the maximum benefit of the doubt. And his reward for that is to be treated completely the opposite. Like Hassan's effort to treat people kindly and fairly and with maximum good faith is rewarded by being treated the complete bad faith, propagandized against. Like, people are so scared of you just listening to me and Hassan from the perspective of good faith. That's like the number one thing that Ethan Klein and Destiny have focused on in their entire careers, is trying to prevent you from listening to what we say without poisoning the well with a whole bunch of bullshit first, because they know they can't win, because they don't know what they're talking about. And so we have these kind of like super haters because they simply don't matter that much. I've hung out around a lot of popular streamers, and Hassan doesn't treat you less than you because of your view count like some do. He's genuinely nice to everyone and doesn't act better than. Oh yeah, that too. He's incredibly kind and generous. The more Piker observed, however, the more he realized the problem wasn't the people. It was that the supposed land of plenty was not providing for those with less. The American healthcare system, he says, ultimately served as the final rung on his ladder to leftism. I grew up in a different part of the world where I saw not the immediate impacts of American imperialism, but secondary shockwaves. But then seeing that this service should be afforded to every single person unconditionally was paywalled. It was really insane. That was definitely the final straw for me to really tilt over into the anti-capitalist direction. My SIL, sister-in-law, tried so hard to put so much negativity on Hassan, and I was like, give me reasons. She said he did practice what he preached in charity, and I said, girl, he raised millions. She shut the fuck up. People just talk. You have to understand, somebody like Hassan represents a serious threat to almost all of the lies that are spread about socialists. That's why people hate him, because he rejects everything they're saying. He's not saying you need to get rid of your toothbrush. He's not saying you're not allowed to have fun. He's not saying you can't be attractive or strong or friendly or funny. He is every like stupid conservative trope he annihilates. And that's why they're so focused on attacking him, because he's not easy to put into boxes. I've talked about this before, but one of the main strategies that people use to discredit someone they can't debate is that they try to put them in a box. You know, SJW or cringe or whatever the fuck. They try to put people into these boxes so they get dehumanized and they aren't treated as worthy. That is kind of like the main goal of somebody like an Ethan Klein, right? He annihilates the tropes about Muslims and socialists at once. It's awesome. Love Hassan. Exactly. I feel like he could learn a thing from you and explaining things in a digestible way. I mean, I think he does. He does explain things in a digestible way. I just have a different... The thing is, like, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are. And one of the problems that I have is I am not approachable. You know, I am not somebody who has that magnetism that Hassan has. And so for people to like me, they have to be listening to what I'm saying. So you have to get over that hump. My Riz is a little bit, it's more insidious. Hassan has magnetism. I have the fungal method, right? I grow on you. you know, weave my web, you know, whereas Hassan, you just get drawn. You know, he's got the pitcher plant method. I'm the fungal method, right? It's different strategies. Grower Riz, exactly. He's a shower. I'm a grower. And so like, but both get the job done. Okay, both get the job done. It's just a different strategy. Another reason to ban private schools, we get way more Hassans. I mean, I went to public schools. When I first found you, it was hard to digest your content. It felt doomer, but I slowly realized that was just your passion and how much you want to change things for us. I believe in not sugarcoating things. That's you know, the difference between me and a lot of other people is I believe that the best thing to do is to build people up and harden them, temper them. I don't want you to be somebody who is just floating in this miasma of delusional hype. I want you to be hard-nosed. I want you to look at the world as it is and be able to withstand it. I don't want to propagandize you about how everything is great. And then, you know, Kamala Harris loses every swing state, right? Like, how many people were like laughing and smiling 2 months before the election saying that Kamala Harris was going to win and it wasn't even close? I mean, even Hassan was kind of stiff in that bullshit. Yeah, it's who did it stayed because you don't baby the community or pill them on copium. Honestly, it's always preferred to try to make us feel better. The thing is, like, I will show you cope, but it has to be real. It has to be real. I you know, weave my web. You know, I'm like, I gotta fix my hair, my web, you know. Whereas Hassan, you just get drawn. You know, he's got the pitcher plant method. I'm the fungal method, right? It's different strategies. Grower Riz, exactly. He's a shower. I'm a grower. Correct. Where was I? Oh yeah. Okay. So getting back to reading. And so Piker embraced socialism, a political ideology that encompasses a wide range of social and economic beliefs, which fundamentally argues that workers or essential governing body should control the means of production, aka buildings and tools that create basic necessities, goods, and services, instead of private companies which generally prioritize profit above all else. Socialists like Piker believe more of the benefits of collective labor should be going to individual workers rather than companies and bosses who rarely, if ever, do the lion's share of the work. Socialists in the United States are often critical of both the Republican and Democratic parties, both of whom they argue continually prop up corporate interests, even on rare occasions where their rhetoric suggests otherwise. Proponents of socialism often push for socialized systems like universal health care and a universal basic income, arguing that a society truly for and by the people should meet everyone's basic needs. I'm not an income guy. I'm a universal basic services guy. I think that you should be provided health care, housing, transportation. We should give like free or extremely reduced price childcare and leisure activities. I feel like the basic necessities of a dignified and happy life should be provided by that society in common. And then income, like, and then we have other, like, you know, other stuff on top of that as a bonus. A government provided gaming PC. I mean, I don't think that's crazy. Maybe not to your house, but like, I think having a gaming lounge at a community center would be a great idea. Like, don't you think people would be happier if we had, like, let's say we had 20 super high-end gaming PCs in your community center that you could go and play. And like, you would have a community that formed in person. Because people would be leaving their fucking apartment and they would be going to the community center and they would be playing these super awesome gaming PCs. It would be a third space. I'm just, you know, proposing why that would be better than you getting one sent to your house. The gaming lounge would need so many air fresheners, but here's the thing though. That's a great point. You go to the gaming lounge, your hygiene is bad. Everybody says, "Hey, put on some deodorant. Hey, take a shower." And you get corrected. That's called being socialized. Like, you're not Asmongold if everyone is like, "Hey man, you need to take a shower or you're going to get kicked out." Bingo, bango, boom. That's why that's a good idea. That's why that's superior. Like, even unironically, the idea of, yeah, we should have things like, you know, community centers with high-end gaming PCs. Why the fuck should only rich kids get to play games? That's crazy. It's a social construct. Your stank is not a social construct. It's hitting the neurons in my fucking brain. The issue with privatized spaces is that if you aren't the owner, you aren't supposed to correct another customer because it's seen as stamping on customers and stakeholders. Exactly. Socialized gaming PCs would result in gamers having showers. It's actually very sad that most community spaces and apartment complexes are locked and you have to go to rent them out through the office, and any that are open and free, people feel awkward and don't want to enter in there if someone else is already occupying the space. Yeah, it's because we live in capitalist hell. I'm in Rashida Tlaib's district, and she helped our city secure a federal grant a few years ago to build up our community center, and one of the things they added was unironically a gaming computer lounge. Exactly my point! Hey Mike, a bit off topic, but I wanted to thank you for motivating others to organize or join organizations. I joined my local orgs and I'm having a blast talking to others. It's great to feel part of something. I'm glad that you're doing that. I am one of DSA's biggest recruiters, by the way. This is a fact. A lot of people will try to attack me and call me like all sorts of names. This is another DGG Ethan Klein thing where they're like, you guys aren't even doing anything. And it's like, no, actually, I'm one of DSA's biggest recruiters. I helped multiple politicians get elected this year. Another one that I helped just got elected. Like yesterday. We just helped them win. Yesterday. Another one. It's just like hilarious. Chat, honestly, check out your local libraries. I'm a librarian. We provide services like D&D nights, gaming consoles. If you use our services, we can budget more shit. Oh man, that's such a good point. One of the biggest problems we have is people are not aware of what services and things are available in their community. That's a huge issue. Unlike capitalist sex pests, our help isn't seen as such a liability that we get denounced. Instead, we get thank you letters from winning candidates. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But the other thing is, like, I'm not trying to draw too many lines under the people we help, because a lot of times people attack me for not doing X, Y, and Z because they're talking about themselves, right? They're talking about themselves and projecting onto me, right? And if I say like, no, I helped so-and-so candidate, that's me doing an anti-solidarity, because then I'm encouraging the psychos who stalk me to go and stalk the candidate who didn't sign up for that, right? So I don't make that easy. I don't do that. Like if I have some unhinged liberal or unhinged conservative or unhinged DGGer in my replies going, tell me who you worked with, I'm not going to. Fuck them. People like, oh no, the bad faith DGGer is suddenly going to change his position because I elected people to a state office. Like, no, they'll just start harassing that person. They'll just start undermining the work I do. Like, fuck them. I don't do it for that. I don't do it for cred. It's like, oh my God, Mike, you got somebody elected to the state representative in Wisconsin. I now believe that you really are not a grifter. Like, no, that's not how it works. Well, no, you're obviously lying. Okay, it's spitting. You just have to take another day off. You're boring me. You have to take another day off. Your trolls are not interesting enough. They're too boring. All right. Piker's path to Twitch was a little more circuitous than his one to socialism. He grew up playing pirated video games in Turkey where legit copies of big hits were hard to come by. For a time, games functioned as his North Star. He regularly drew video game characters and aspired to become an illustrator for a video game developer. I want to see these illustrations right now. You and Hassan are the reason I started going to the gym, and it's the best decision I could have made. Thank you, buddy. I need to convince myself to go. I recently moved to a new city, and I looked for any local gaming clubs at the library where most were for younger kids, which I think is great, but I do wish there was more options for gaming with adults. There definitely is. I don't know. I mean, I don't have the easy answer for you, but there certainly are like meetup groups and places to figure this stuff out. Here's his deviant art profile. Hellboy Hassan. Honestly, it's not bad. He put a Turkish flag on this one. He has a Turkish flag on this operator. Okay. He drew a dwarf. He's back in. He's cool. Putin just said that he wants to negotiate with Zelensky. Even with USA does not want Zelensky at the table, Russia does want him. What happened to USA? They hate Ukraine now. What happened to Ukraine is the same thing that's happening to anybody who trusts the United States ever. And if you're European, listen up. You cannot trust us. I wish this wasn't the case, but you cannot trust the United States of America. We have gone insane. The sooner that you stand up to us, the better. I live in such a deep red area that there are no third spaces or groups that aren't involved with the church. No DSA chapter, no meetup groups. There's nothing. I've looked. Bummer. But you do have here. I wouldn't give up. You know, I would consider starting one. Honestly. I hate to be the person to say that to you, but like, maybe you should try. And if you fail, who cares? I remember when I first found you, you're working with 2 other streamers at the time, and since then, until now, I've been able to develop my own political identity so much more that I'm currently working my way to run for office in my town that is very conservative. Good luck. However, volunteering and talking to others, they are starting to see why we need more social safety nets. Even I may have a chance to give the current mayor a run for his money. Well, you're certainly going to learn some things. You and Hassan inspired me to get involved with my local community, and it's how I host weekly paint nights every Thursday. It's possible to foster third spaces. Just got to pair up with like-minded folks at org. So true. It is something that you're going to have to do. Honestly, like, I've been thinking about that stuff a lot. Like, if you guys want to know what I've been doing lately, I've been thinking a lot about how to react to the time that we're in. And there's like 2 elements of what I need to improve on in my life. One is, you know, professional stuff I want to work on and improve and expand. The second is personal. You know, you have your personal desires and your personal objectives with those that are in your most inner circles, right? And then there are social objectives, life goals. And I've just been thinking, like, I have to get stuck in again. I have to start building the ship that I want to sail on, because nobody's going to build it for me. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. Am I following the New Jersey Dem gubernatorial candidates? Oh, God. After college, Piker ended up getting a job with the Young Turks, a progressive-leaning online news program founded by his uncle, Cenk Uygur. Around this time in 2014, a right-leaning reactionary movement within video games called Gamergate began to take off on platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Piker, who was producing leftist commentary videos for the Young Turks, found himself sharing online real estate with a movement that would go on to pioneer tactics and produce stars for the alt-right. I saw the YouTube commentary space infested with these neck-bearded weirdos who were super right-wing. I mean, they fucking hated me. They were not fond of me at all. They were not fond of Young Turks. They were blowing up. They were gaining a lot of prominence, and a lot of gamers were being radicalized by these commentators that made themselves out to be centrists, but clearly weren't. Hey, Asmongold! On the other side of the political spectrum, Piker was finding success with a Facebook show he created called Breakdown, in which he took a punchy, crunchy approach to analyzing buzzy topics like millennial entitlement and Trump's Muslim ban. But after a while, he began to feel he was hitting a ceiling. Piker is kind of irrepressible, I think is the right way to describe it, says Uygur, Piker's former boss and current / always uncle. As he's doing great on Facebook, he's thinking, oh, I got to expand to a different thing that will give me a different skill set and bring in new eyes. Now, chat, I'm going to take a moment here to point out something about Cenk Uygur. Cenk is saying that Hassan is irrepressible. Now, how would you know somebody is irrepressible unless you witnessed or engaged in attempting to repress them? Like, he's not saying Hassan took whatever opportunities I gave him and massively overperformed. No, his thing is, you can't hold him down. You can't keep him down. And it's like, why is my former boss saying you can't keep me down? Like, what? Wait, what? Jealousy. Just saying, just pointing it out. It's very interesting the way that he's talking about Hassan. You can't keep him down. Is that a stretch? Yes, that is a gigantic stretch. But I do think that the way people frame others is kind of a window into the soul. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's not like he doesn't say like, anytime I threw a pitch to Hassan, he crushed it out of the park. You know, it's like, you can't keep him down. Piker largely concurs with that characterization of events, with the caveat that his uncle's company wasn't paying him enough. They basically got other hosts on Breakdown instead of giving me more money to work with. I had no control over that, and I feel that I was always going to be in my uncle's shadow no matter what if I stayed there. And I wanted to get better at speaking off the cuff because I was horrible at it. Hassan is wearing a Master Sergeant jacket from the Air Force. That's incredible. Anyway, let's keep going. Piker wanted to build a living, breathing community, one united around his principles. He felt that in order to accomplish his goal, he'd need to meet people where they're at, not where po-faced political scholars wanted them to be. I wanted to show people authentically that you could be a leftist and have fun, said Piker. It doesn't have to be about constantly woke scolding people and appearing as the biggest joy killer, as though having fun is actually bourgeois decadence. I couldn't agree more with this. I could not agree more with this. Leftists fail because of 2 reasons. 1, not enough happy warriors. Not enough people that are just seem like they're winning and enjoying life. Too many people that are policing others or down in the dumps depressed. Those people are just the worst. I'm sorry. Like, we need more happy warriors, number one. Number two, and this is another important point, not enough angry people. Not enough people that are comfortable with anger, not as an outburst, but as an orientation toward the world. And I think that's what made Bernie Sanders successful. What made Bernie Sanders successful is he kind of seemed pissed off a little bit about how things are fucked up. He didn't just shrug his shoulders. He actually was like mad about it. And that's what I think we need. We need people that have fun, and we need people that are actually mad about fucked up shit and get our teeth back. Chuck D's, thank you for the 25 tier ones. That's why when you read Mao, one of the things you learn is that you need power is attractive in the sense of, if it looks like you have a chance of fucking up the capitalists, people are going to be much more likely to want to be part of your movement. If it seems like you're getting W's, people are going to want to bandwagon a lot more. They don't want the quixotic romantic defeat. They don't want a moral victory. They want a victory. Others who have followed in Piker's wake, like smaller leftist Switch streamer named Mike from PA Buyer, see this as a core element of his appeal. Motherfucker, I told you, Central Committee. Piker is in his person a refutation of a lot of the stereotypes of the left, right? He's a large, strong, attractive, funny guy who you want to be friends with, but he also has the values of the left. Says Buyer, who has previously collaborated with Piker. Motherfucker is constantly stealing my takes. Previously collaborated? You mean the guy he steals his takes from? He could just refute in himself a lot of the stereotypes about soy boy, blue-haired cringe. You know, the idea that if you vote for liberals, they won't let you laugh at jokes. He just refutes all of that instantly. This is one of the things I really do value about Hassan. Is it's just like the person who fucked up the Tate brothers more than anyone else was Hassan. The Tate-Hassan debate was the peak of Tate, literally. Like, he was the person who took the wind out of his sails. And that's why so many people, like Joe Rogan, what really fascinates me is Joe Rogan doesn't want to ever collaborate with Hassan. I find that really interesting. Like, when 2020 was happening, and he was like leaning towards Bernie, and he never collaborated with Hassan, but he collaborated with Kyle Kulinski. It was very weird. I was always surprised. That was really frustrating. Trump wants Andrew Tate free. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. The one thing about Donald Trump that I would say is, look what somebody exercising power looks like. That's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is showing you what somebody who exercises power looks like. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. They think it's not fair that he's exercising power. And what I would say is, I wish we had somebody like that on our side. I wish we had somebody who was trying to exercise power like Donald Trump is trying to exercise power. Now, the problem is what he's trying to do sucks. Not everything he's trying to do. 95% of what Donald Trump is trying to do is just incredibly damaging and harmful to the world. The 5% of the things that he's doing that are helpful are stuff that he doesn't understand and is just fucking up America's soft power. And that's awesome. What do you think about the executive order where he and his AG can interpret laws? I think that it's very funny because the Supreme Court under conservatives just spent the past 10 years undermining the Chevron doctrine, which is the idea that courts should listen to what a reasonable interpretation of the law provided by executive agencies is when interpreting the law. And now Donald Trump is basically saying, no. The president interprets laws, which is literally that's what the judiciary is for. So he's going against one of the core decisions that were made under the Biden administration by the conservative Supreme Court. And by the way, this contradiction, the contradiction between his executive order and the Chevron doctrine that was overturned, or the contradiction between overturning the Chevron doctrine and what he just said, is insane. Trump calls Zelensky a dictator. Oh, yeah. Trump calls Zelensky a dictator as tensions rise between the leaders over the Russia-Ukraine war. Oh. All right, we'll talk about that when we're done with the article. Marcus DJ Wheat Graham, a streamer since the earliest days of the medium and a broadcast journalism major before that, sees Piker a continuation just of irreverent political pundits like Jon Stewart, but also shock jocks like Howard Stern. Piker is unafraid to communicate complex points using vulgar language. If a viewer comes at him with an idea he finds odious or unsavory, he's just as likely to make a joke about sleeping with their mom as he is to boot them from chat. Shock jock humor is always going to be entertaining style of content. I don't think that it transforms and shifts a little bit. I think that it transforms and shifts a little bit over time. Where you look at the shock jocks of even 20 years ago, whether it's on radio or whatever, and there's a lot of misogyny, homophobia, there's a lot of shock for the wrong reasons. I think the shock jocks of today are more creative and clever. It's not just about being a bunch of degenerates. I mean, this is literally just the DGG style, right? This is Destiny style. It's just being a degenerate. You've got Piker, who's kind of a shock jock, definitely the political world, knows how to talk about things in a different way, the way he presents his positions, and so on. Piker only really found himself on his current course following the 2008 Fortnite boom. Alongside millions of other people, he watched the then Twitch kingpin Tyler Ninja Blevins play the sensationally popular Battle Royale game with rap superstar Drake, and everything clicked into place. He needed to be on Twitch. He was already playing Fortnite for hours each day. Fortnite. And he was doing so with journalists and podcasters like the host of the leftist show Chapo Trap House, who similarly endeavored to change people's preconceived notions of leftism by embracing an edgier vibe. Why not broadcast it? I could play Fortnite and have these conversations that it can make for entertaining and interesting commentary, said Piker. So I strapped a camera to my PlayStation 4 and started streaming. I got 17 people my first stream, 35 people after that. And that's how I started in the space. I'm very curious. What was his first streams? There it is, March 23rd, 2018. Is that his actual first stream? Or just the first stream that was collected? I guess it is his first stream ever. These were short streams, chat. Oh, he started to build up. Hard to grow. He got a big raid or something. Friday, July 6th. Wonder who was that? I wonder who the raider was. Piker did not want his Twitch channel to grow explosively, at least not at first. He'd watch gaming communities, forums, and subreddits get overrun by alt-right elements, and he came to understand the delicate ecosystem that is a new online community. After all, it takes only a handful of loud, determined bad actors to chase away hundreds or even thousands of well-meaning individuals. Think of it like going to a bar where somebody's violently drunk, or a restaurant with several screaming babies. If you encounter the same unpleasant disruption a few times in a row, you're probably going to give up on coming back. And this is the thing about Ethan Klein. This is what Ethan Klein doesn't understand, because he comes from a time before. You know, he comes from Vape Nation, the Vape Nation. And what Ethan Klein has done is he's basically put a sign out front saying, "Screaming babies welcome." Ethan Klein has a sign out front saying, "Screaming babies welcome." And this is the result. Man, it's crazy to be actively streaming and losing 660 subscribers every day. That's fucking crazy. H3 Podcast should reach 2.74 million subs around tomorrow. Oh, thank you. He's dropping another 10K around tomorrow. The top 4 posts of the H3 subreddit are them being screaming babies about you. Oh my God. This is so funny, dude. All right, I gotta see this. I gotta see this. Hold on, chat. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, these people are insane. I said, he's absolutely having a breakdown. If we keep pushing, the problem will solve itself. Seems Mike is hoping for Ethan to rid himself from the face of the earth. This is so vile. It seems like perfect use for the lawsuit. That's not what that says. That's not what that says. That's this is something that Destiny's community oftentimes does, is they'll take something and then they'll interpret it, and then they'll act like their interpretation is what you said. I did not say I want Ethan Klein to kill himself. I did not say that. Destiny said he wanted me to kill myself. You know, the community you're from, he literally said he wants Mike from PA to kill himself. He said that. Why are you clutching pearls? I never said I want Ethan Klein to kill himself. They take care of itself is this, you dumb fuck. Which is his stream is dying. Like, it's absolutely crazy. Honest to God, what can you even say about these people, right? It's an incredible to see this pearl clutching. It's incredible to see the pearl clutching. I didn't say that. Why did Hassan read the puff piece live? These people are cowards and never stand behind anything. Oh wait, so I thought it was bad to call for people to commit suicide. Now it's bad to clarify that I wasn't? Inventing an interpretation and then trying to act like your interpretation is definitive is some cry-bully bullshit. Is this reply being brigaded from Reddit? It's the only way you would see replies like this. I was right. I was right. I was literally right. Brave Antelope 8836, guys. This isn't oh, it joined 2 months ago. I'm gonna go ahead and say this is a DGGer who doesn't want to post on their main. I encourage anyone who has Twitter, bring this to Tyler Oakley's attention. Make him acknowledge what he is co-signing. Mike from PA is too far gone. Tyler might see this and say, oh shit, this is just brigading. This is just literally brigading. Even Hassan fans should want Mike on. He is a cancer to your movement. And the more people like Mike from PA discredited, the better. I thought Tyler Oakley was brand Interchain 9710 wants you to know that Tyler Oakley wants to be brand friendly. Like, look at these fucking babies. Disappointed in Mike from PA again. Come on, Mike. If you're going to say something, say it with your chest. Hey, guys, you know you know what's incredible? Is that these fucking losers are Destiny fans. That's one of the most incredible things. Tyler Oakley is an OG gay YouTuber. Yeah. Everyone hates Ethan Klein, and we're going to keep doing it. Ethan, we're going to keep it up. We're going to keep showing people all your favorite clips. We're going to show you sexualizing a 17-year-old terrorist victim. We're going to show your N-word compilations. We're never going to stop. Everyone is going to know you're a supporter of the genocide in Gaza. We're never, ever going to stop. Ever. Oh, yeah, this is wow, this is crazy. Comprehensive list of all of Ethan Klein's most controversial, outrageous, and vile moments. Wow, everybody should definitely take a look at this. Holy shit. Make sure that anytime you see an Ethan Klein fan, they have to start explaining this. Ethan being sexual about kids. Ethan tricking his disabled friend to talk dirty. Ethan is sexually inappropriate. Ethan body shames children. Ethan sexually inappropriate. Ethan disgustingly describes Boston bombing survivor as having fat, juicy, juvenile vaginas. She is a minor, among other vile comments like her scars could have been caused by a night of heavy fucking. And a bonus N-word. Ethan discriminates against those with chronic illnesses.
This guy. Because he wanted to get rid of him. He is an HR nightmare.
No, he wanted a job. That's what he...
You would never be able to get rid of him.
I've worked with people like this, and the thing is, once you work with someone like this, you start realizing, oh, this is why there's such like strict HR interviewing process, like 20 layers.
Because you'll never shake that guy.
Not only that, like when you realize that, like, not only are they not helpful, but they're like detrimental to everybody and the environment and everything around them. When you try to fire them, they will 1000% file a discrimination lawsuit.
It's California.
Oh, this must have been him firing his housekeeper because she needed hernia surgery. So he's just, wow, I need to send this to her lawyers.
So it's
make
tough.
anything up.
Yeah, to beat those. Jake could be in the other seat someday. Possibly.
No shot. There's no
Co-host?
chance.
Co-host
He blows
potential?
and he sucks.
0% chance.
I hear
he'll
he
ever work
worked
here.
on SNL. That's a
Coveted
that's
job.
a big resume line.
Yeah.
You know?
A new writer.
Wrote some of the greatest bits.
Dude, I wouldn't...
Ethan being respectfully transphobic as he talks over the top of a woman and won't let her speak. Ethan loves saying the N-word a lot. Ethan uses fake content and presents them as facts. Makes fun of women who have been violated. He loves comparing those he disagrees with as terrorists. Ethan makes fun of taking illness seriously. Ethan is lying, jealous baby. Wow. He doesn't care about real anti-Semitism. Ethan thinks women are naturally to be raped and dominated. Oh my God, it never ends. It never ends.
Because I'm having trouble believing he weighed 450. I think it's possible he's lying about how much he weighed, too. This man literally told me, don't make fun of my weight. Look at this. This is a nightmare. That's a lot of calories. I would guess that he's maybe 350 at most. I'm afraid he's going to gain it all back watching him eat this. It's not healthy to eat like that. There's no debating it. But like, I just get tired of telling the same story over and over and over. So I just say, I stopped eating. I mean, he could just provide proof. That would shut me up. You straight up cannot eat like that unless you're purging or like taking like diarrhea medicine or whatever.
And so I do think they owe it to their followers to admit if they found a secret to losing weight after all those years.
But you shouldn't lie about taking steroids. That's fucked up. I mean, it's just as harmful as like girls saying that their bodies are natural when it's not. I mean, it's fucked up. It's harmful.
Yeah.
Why is Shredder dying of kidney disease and Nick Ocado is fine? There it is, fatties. But Nick Ocado on the...
By the way, guys, here he is mocking somebody dying of a kidney disease, and then his cry bully fans are trying to pretend that I said I want him to kill himself. Ethan Klein, I never said I want you to kill myself. Now, Destiny said he wanted me to kill myself. He wanted Hassan to kill ourselves. That's true. That's the guy you're working with. That's the guy subreddit you adore.
On the other hand, has seen some traffic.
It's clarified that you want Ethan to reach rock bottom so he can finally dedicate time to his family instead of schizo posting every day. I legitimately think it's too late for Ethan to be normal. At this point, he's going to fixate on me because he thinks he's going to hurt me. Ethan Klein, it's not going to, like, you're just going to help me and Denims blow up even more. That's what Ethan Klein doesn't understand, is that he's going to create permanent careers for me and Denims. I mean, we were already there. You know, when you're making like well over 6 figures making content, you're already, you know what I mean? It's already a career. But if you want to knock me up into the millions, I mean, I'll have a Hollywood mansion, you know? I'll buy a Porsche. Sure, why not? He was talking about his dog Shredder. Yeah, no, he was mocking somebody else for dying.
Nick Ocado, on the other hand, has seen some traffic.
But it's not because he's
Fucked up. It's harmful.
Yeah.
Why is Shredder dying of kidney disease and Nick Ocado is fine? Yep. There it is.
Like, he's saying, why is Shredder dying of kidney disease? Didn't he say that he killed his dog by feeding it cheese, too much cheese? Like, wasn't that his fault? Like, did he say it was his fault? And then so he wants somebody else to die, basically. He's saying he wants them to have kidney disease. Like, what? He's saying, why is my dog dying? Oh, I killed my dog, but I wish you were being killed by me. Like, what are you talking about, man?
Fatties. But Nick Ocado, on the other hand, has seen some traffic.
But it's not because he's fat.
Yeah, why'd I say that? I don't know why I went there with him. As a former fatty.
All the comments are like, you guys don't look bad. So I texted you. I'm like, oh, you know what? Comments are saying we don't look that fat. And you're like, they're lying.
They tell you what you want to hear in the comments.
I was like, I think they're a little fat phobic because I was like, you know what? We don't look that bad. And you're like, they're lying.
Nick Ocado. Interestingly, the pit of an avocado looks like his butthole. I never said she was a beached whale.
Well, she thinks
You're putting words in my mouth, Dan. I said it looks like she just watched up on the beach. Y'all being sensitive, stop. Y'all really getting mad at me? He said his butthole's huge. I think
I
that's
never
like
said
more
that Ethan Klein should kill himself.
directly insulting than me saying it looks like a cow's vagina. At least that's more poetic. If I've apologized, if I've offended this man here, who is just the most respectable, dignified member of society. I'm tall. I'm significantly taller than him.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fairly tall and he's fairly short. I'm like a really tall guy, I think, in general. So let's say he's 350 minus 160 is 190 pounds. 7 months, 190 pounds divided by 7 months is 27 pounds per month, which is very high. But 27 would be like 4.2. Divided by 4.2 would be 6.4 pounds per week. Tess Holiday is a beached whale.
I think it's nasty, but I think it's the same thing you did when you called Tana a Twinkie, and then I came on the podcast and you still were like, yeah, she looked like a Twinkie. Like, it's still mean, no matter what.
Can I call a girl Twinkie? I'm not body shaming him, and I never said a single freaking peep about his body, so don't be acting like I body shamed you, bro. He definitely should not let his bird like that, I feel like.
By the way, this is the guy who claims that he had to fire his housekeeper, not because they needed hernia surgery where they would have to go out of work and not clean after. By the way, you're a slop YouTuber who works from home. Do your own laundry, you lazy sack of shit. But no, his housekeeper that was taking care of his entire house had to get hernia surgery, and he fired her. And he says, well, it's because she was doing fat shaming. Look at this guy. Incredible. The baby bitch made losers. And by the way, please keep talking about me. Keep talking about me, because I will get permanent growth from this. You won't. You're falling off. You're losing 700 subscribers a day on YouTube. What a fucking loser, dude. And the bitch made loser Destiny fans, the cry bully Destiny fans. It's truly incredible. It's truly incredible. All right, let's keep going. I wanted to show you guys this video on Porto building a metro system, because America can't build anything. And Porto, city in Portugal, managed to build a modern metro system relatively quickly.
We are in Porto today.
I left H3 8 months ago and never looked back. He's fucking worthless, dude. Legitimately, make sure you don't have any old accounts subscribed. Go hit the unsubscribe button from H3 and join the hundreds and thousands of us that have already unsubscribed. He fucking sucks.
Give me some Vibans, bro. Let's vibe out.
No, you can't take that without a prescription.
We'll talk.
What do you mean? You've never taken a drug without a prescription? Oh, I'm Dan. I've never taken... Are you smoking weed without a prescription, buddy? Have you? What are we doing here?
Honestly, I think Ethan Klein should take whatever drugs he deems fit. I think 40-year-old men taking unprescribed methamphetamine is good for their body and health. He takes whatever he wants to take, you know? I'm not encouraging it. What's this?
Wait, where you at?
Celestial?
Yeah.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
That's what it's called, right? The one after Grandmaster? Celestial.
I'm busy taking care of my pregnant wife.
Oh, I hear that. I hear that at least once a day from you.
I'm shooting ropes, bro.
Oh, yeah, that's your own doing, brother.
All right, where were we? I wanted to say this. Hassan is the human embodiment of the Che Guevara shirt sold at Hot Topic.
He's stealing jokes from Destiny's subreddit?
He is.
The silence. The dead silence.
All right, where were we? I wanted to say this. Hassan is the human embodiment of the Che Guevara shirt sold at Hot Topic.
The dead silence. He's paying these men to laugh. He's paying these men to laugh at his jokes, and it's dead, but you can hear a pin drop, and these guys are being paid to laugh at him. Oh, that's awesome.
He is that personified.
And by the way, chat, the best thing is, like, the thing that I want to say about Ethan Klein is the more content he makes about, he doesn't have motion, right? He doesn't have motion in the political sphere. So the more content he makes about me and denims, the bigger we're going to get, because we're going to be associated with Hassan more. We're going to be seen as defenders of Hassan. Hassan's already large audience that's highly engaged is going to participate more. The people that hate Ethan Klein are going to come to me and support me. It's just going to help me grow even more. So this is why I cover it. To be quite honest with you, the reason why I punch back is because the more I punch back, the more likely H3 is going to talk about me. The more likely he's going to continue. He's going to divert his attention from Hassan, and it's going to just help me grow more and more and more. And the best part is I can say this openly, and he's so out of control that he's going to keep doing it. He's going to keep doing it, and it's going to have me make more and more and more money. I'm going to get more and more followers. He can't control himself, and that is the best part, because I'm manipulating Ethan. I'm winning. I'm baiting him. I'm reeling him in. He's dancing to my tune, and the reason why I'm taunting him is because it feels even better when he keeps it up, because I know that that he's doing it, and he knows that I know that he's under my control, and he can't stop himself. It's like being manipulated and tricked once happens to the best of us. All of us get scammed or mistreated or in a situation once. But when a person tells you, hey, Ethan Klein, I'm milking you for money and clout, and you can't help yourself, and then they keep doing it, you know you're winning. I saw a clip of Dan shit talking Mike. Yeah, because Ethan Klein is Dan. Here's the thing. Dan is a snake, right? He's scared to shit talk Hassan, right? But he'll shit talk me. I'm just a represent. It's the same thing with Frogan. Frogan and I are just like, we're the proxies for Hassan. We are what Dan wishes he could say about Hassan if he had a set of balls on him, which he doesn't. They're on Ethan Klein's desk, and it's gonna keep going. It's gonna keep happening.
You thinking about that in the bathroom?
Yeah. You cooked on that one.
Put the applause sound effect.
You cooked on that one.
Unbelievable fucking loser. What a complete and utter fucking loser, dude. But hey, how did he get a big audience? When YouTube was very young, the quality of the content on there was very low. And basically, if you produced any kind of content back then and it got any kind of motion, it made you one of the OG YouTubers. And he made this thing called Vape Nash. And if you go back and watch it, it's completely unfunny. Like, it doesn't hold up at all. It's like, it's just boring. And you think, like, as you watch Vape Nash, you think like, oh, he's faking it by, he's doing all these like over the top coughing that he does, right? But no, that wasn't acting. That's just how he is. Like, that's how unhealthy he is. He just hacks up along constantly. It's just him living, if you can call it that. All right. What do I want to watch? Oh yeah, the Modern Metro. This will be a nice chill thing.
talk about the
He was a filthy Frank orbiter? I don't know who that is. Dan said he played Twitch or Terrorist before Ethan and he loved it and he could fuck himself as well, big time. Oh yeah, Dan is such a little rat. At least have the guts to say you don't like Hassan, Dan, you fucking cowardly little bitch.
Metro, which is actually a light rail, but who's keeping track?
The system has been a huge success in many ways, finally giving residents a way to get around traffic and significantly improving certain public spaces.
If you have no metro, you will have a much worse quality of life.
But it almost didn't happen.
It was highly criticized, highly criticized.
Porto had to overcome some incredibly tough topography, all while building something that would work for both suburbs and a city center that is literally a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
And that wasn't even the hardest challenge, because the Metro was involved in what might have been the worst financial decision ever made by any transit agency. The story of the Metro shows us that there are no excuses for not improving transit. And in this video, we'll see why other cities should pay attention, and why money isn't always everything. To understand why Porto even needed a metro in the first place, we have to go back in time.
The Porto metropolitan area is Portugal's second largest, home to 1.7 million people. Today, it's an extremely popular tourism destination, specifically the city of Porto itself. But the whole area is still a major manufacturing and industrial hub, even with some decline in the past few decades. And we'll start our journey in the 12th century. That was around when some iconic landmarks in the city were being constructed, like the Porto Cathedral and the defensive walls. These features shaped development patterns within the core, creating a fabric of narrow, winding streets that millions of tourists now go to see, like me. But as the centuries passed, this tight layout wasn't all that great for economic growth, so Porto attempted to modernize the city.
They built wider avenues like Rua do Amada in the 18th century, which are still tiny by today's standards.
Then the 20th century brought massive ring road motorways like the VCI, and the traffic problems really began. These motorways fueled booming suburbanization, with the population of the 5 municipalities adjacent to Porto growing over 50% between 1960 and 1980, while the city of Porto itself only grew by around 8%. At the same time, the growth of tourism and the decline of traditional industries like textiles meant that employment in the region was increasingly concentrated in the service sector and in the core.
When you look at the services, Porto is still the directional center of all this area. That's for sure.
So every day, a huge number of people traveled radially between the suburbs and the city. And most of these people were forced to drive because the transit wasn't great.
Porto did have an iconic tram system, but that was phased out in the 60s and 70s in favor of buses for very valid cost reasons.
And in a story that played out all over the world, these buses got stuck in traffic as car usage increased, making them less reliable and pushing more people to drive.
Bus wankers!
The result was that every day, a huge number of cars flooded off the motorways and into Porto's city center, bringing the whole thing to a halt.
How would you go about making an urbanization push in the US when people love living in suburbia? The answer is that's not true. If you look at the prices of real estate, city real estate is the most expensive. People don't live in suburbia. It's where they can actually afford to live. They don't want to live there. They have to live there. If you gave people the opportunity to live affordable lives in the city with good amenities and good transport, they would live there. Sure, some people would move to suburbia, but it's a question of demand. You're priced out of other places, so you are forced to go to suburbia.
And for instance, people take a long time to go to work. A lot of money is lost indirectly because there's people in traffic jams.
This is Professor Manuel Valares. He co-wrote this book about the metro along with Professor Pinho, and I went to the Nova University in Lisbon to meet with him.
You're always with young people. Yeah. And this is very important to keep young.
Their research is a huge part of this video, so we'll be hearing a lot from both of them. Now back to Porto's traffic.
This was clearly bad for people, the economy, and the environment. So in 1989, the STCP started looking at solutions.
And to the surprise of nobody, they chose light rail. I know there's ambiguity about this term, so I specifically mean a semi-metro, which typically runs tram cars through tunnels or other separated alignments through city centers before coming up on the surface away from the core. And I gather that Porto did this for three main reasons. First, semi-metros are flexible, which saves money.
It's a typical medieval city that we wanted to preserve.
It can be tunneled where necessary, such as underneath the narrow streets in Porto's historic core, but otherwise use cheaper surface alignments in suburbs where there's more space. This cost saving was very important because Portugal had only joined the EU in 1986, and at that point had a GDP per capita that was only 60% of the Union average. Any money that was saved, for example by not building a fully underground subway, meant that the metro could extend further away from the city to better capture that radial car traffic. Second, light rail can genuinely improve urban areas. It can motivate the redesign of wide arterial roads into green, walkable boulevards with new public spaces, especially with new low-floor vehicles that were gaining popularity around that time.
This improved very much the
these seem kind of almost like trams to me.
quality of life, because where metro stations were done, usually they plant a lot of trees, so the city is much more beautiful.
But I think the biggest reason for using light rail was that everyone else was doing the same thing. France made it cool to revive old tram systems in places like Strasbourg, Grenoble, and basically any city that felt like it. Countries like Germany were upgrading their trams by giving them rapid transit segments like tunnels through dense areas, creating Stadtbahn networks that eventually became the semi-metro concept elsewhere.
So it wasn't like
semi-metro, okay.
Rail was the only choice here, but it did make a lot of sense.
And once that decision was made, Porto went all in. The initial plan called for a semi-metro system.
Look how nice this is, by the way, chat. This country is supposedly poorer than us.
Went all in. The initial plan called for a semi-metro system with 4 lines, running underground across the city center, then coming up on the surface away from the core.
There was a metropolitan view that was basically a north-south line and an east-west line.
It would cost 1.3 billion euros, and we'll look very closely at this funding later on in the video.
Construction broke ground in May 1999, only around a decade after the idea was first floated. So, all things considered, not too bad.
It only took 10 years.
But just because the light rail concept worked on paper, didn't mean that it was easy to build. Porto sits on these steep hills made of granite that are over 100 meters high, or 16 Ford F-150s. We already know that steep slopes don't mix well with most modes of transport, but that granite was actually a big problem.
It's not an homogeneous granite, so it's from a geotechnical point of view, it's a quite complicated area.
The most tragic manifestation of this came in 2001. Part of a tunnel collapsed during construction, taking down a house above it and killing 1 occupant inside.
That's
where
terrible.
The first phase of the project was built was a particularly difficult area.
But the clearest symbol of these preservation and geographic challenges was undoubtedly the revitalization of the Dom Luis Bridge. Built in 1886, the bridge connects Porto with Gaia, the city south of the Douro River. It carried cars, pedestrians, trams, and buses at various points in history, but by the 1990s it had become choked with vehicle traffic. As it turned out, the MDP also determined that this bridge would be the best way for a new metro to cross the Douro River, since it already connected the central areas of both Porto and Gaia. Building a new bridge in this area would also be astronomically expensive and disruptive, so that was never really a viable option.
Adapting the Dom to carry new 40-ton train cars would require a huge modernization effort, and not just to add electrical cables to the bridge deck, for example,
So
but
they
to
got rid
redesign
of the car traffic and just made it a train? That's Americans would never.
the entire flow of vehicle traffic around the area. A big challenge for sure.
I think Americans will be open to rail as long as it runs as well as it does in China. No homeless, crime, or dirty. I agree. There shouldn't be any of those things on public transit. You should be safe on public transit. It should be clean. And people shouldn't be using it as shelter. And the thing is, so the reason why you don't see people using trains as shelter in Vienna is because they have shelter. The solution isn't to use cops. The solution is to provide for people.
But Porto did it anyway.
11.6 million euros were poured into revitalizing the bridge, which involved replacing over 60% of the iron on the upper deck. The new version removed road traffic entirely from that upper deck. Only the metro and pedestrians would cross up top, creating an incredible walkable connection between Porto and Gaia. That's
so
probably
cool.
one of the city's defining features today. Private cars were eventually banned from the bridge altogether, although Porto did spend 14 million euros to build the nearby Infante Bridge to relieve some of that car traffic.
This is a preservation masterclass. It's also a refreshing contrast to when decision makers say it's too risky or difficult to do something like reactivate an old train line, for example. This redevelopment added a lot to Porto, just like this hoodie can add a lot to your life this winter. We're actually a bit out of
this has gotten bad everywhere. Literally everywhere.
Order here, because the bridge rehab was done in 2005, but the first part of the metro actually opened in 2002.
But I think the specific order of events matters less than the outcome, because by 2006, Porto had pulled off that ambitious initial network, and people loved it. Or at least loved it enough to use it. Ridership more than doubled from the year prior, and the system continues to set records year after year, with 79 million trips in 2023.
I think it's remarkable, actually.
A particularly heartening finding was that the metro's typical rider was a single middle-class woman under the age of 24. I know that's straight from MDP's own surveys, which is fraught with selection bias, but a good sign nonetheless for system safety. And on any weekday, especially after work, it's absolutely packed. It actually raises some questions around capacity and route planning that we'll look at later on in the video. To better illustrate all of this, I asked Charlie, one of you amazing subscribers who had relatives in Porto that were regular users of the metro. One of them studied at Porto and said that you could expect the metro to come within 10 minutes, and that it was definitely better than Lisbon's. Another who grew up and worked in the area agreed that you can reliably get to anywhere you needed, and not once was he late for work. He also said that the metro helped mend a large disconnect between both sides of the river, giving people living on the south side, like himself, access to more opportunities in the north. As a side note, I always want to involve you guys in these videos, and it's way easier for me to keep track of everyone if you fill in that Google form I've been linking, or just shoot me an email. And follow me on Instagram, because there'll be some new content coming there in 2025, and I feel like it's easier for me to communicate with you guys on there as well. At this point, it might seem like the metro is a perfect success story, but it had one key weakness: political influence.
That metropolitan area is run by a junta.
Decisions that affected multiple municipalities, like where a new metro should go, were undoubtedly influenced by this junta, which was made up of the 17 mayors within the Porto metropolitan area.
There's here a kind of a conflict of interest. You are supposed to look at the interests of all the metropolitan area, but at the same time, you know that you have been elected by the people that lives in that particular municipality where you belong.
Each mayor naturally wanted the metro to extend into their own municipality, resulting in the metro arguably limiting its own effectiveness by serving what these mayors wanted, instead of the corridors that actually had the highest demand. This is especially true for Gaia, which has the largest population out of all the neighboring municipalities, but only a single metro line, at least until the Ruby line opens later this decade. It was a similar situation in Gondomar. The area is home to plenty of Porto.
I mean, this is always what happens. You're always going to have political forces that are... This is why local control sucks. When you're trying to build stuff like transportation networks, local control is dog shit, because this is what ends up happening is the political strength, relative strength of politicians in local areas determines what happens, as opposed to what is rational and what can be explained. Can you explain what a junta is within the context?
On commuters,
No.
but only received a metro connection in 2011. As a result, the metro actually hasn't been that useful at reducing car usage.
I have to say that the most important immediate impact was to capture passengers from the bus system.
This wasn't exactly unexpected, since the metro was intended to consolidate and replace unreliable bus service. But 1 decade later, researchers found that in areas directly served by the metro, the rate of growth in the number of car trips slowed, but the absolute number of trips didn't decrease. It was even worse in areas not directly served by the metro, where growth in car trips largely continued unaffected. So yeah, definitely not ideal. But we'll see at the end of the video how the MDP and Professor Pino are addressing these issues with new extensions like the Ruby line.
If you watch my videos with any regularity, you might have noticed that there's something completely missing from this video so far. That's right, project financing.
The original 1.3 billion euro budget was intended to be around 42% funded by various public sources, including EU Cohesion Fund money intended to help countries with less money improve their infrastructure. But around 2003, as parts of the metro slowly came online, the MDP approved several extensions to the system, such as the airport line. This pushed the total budget from 1.3 billion to a bit over 2 billion euros. This expansion was by and large a good thing, greatly increasing the utility of the system. But the amount of subsidies didn't increase along with the budget. So instead of 42%, subsidies eventually only made up around 24% of funding. And take a guess as to how that funding gap was filled.
It was funded mainly with loans.
The MDP mostly paid for a larger system with debt. Carrying debt means that you have to pay interest.
What year was this though? I mean, they probably got relatively low interest rates.
And that interest soon became a real drag on the MDP's overall finances.
The problem is, at that time, the interest rate was very high. So you had to get loans.
Okay, it was 2003. Oh, okay, never mind. That was bad.
To pay the operation and to pay the loans. Loans to pay loans. And the debt was increased very fast.
The MDP was under strong pressure to do something. So in 2007, they rolled up to Santander Bank and entered into what some news outlets called the worst trade of all time.
It's the name of the worst trade of all time. But I think it's a little unfair to say this.
In a nutshell, Santander agreed to reduce MDP's rates from 4.76% to 1.76%, as long as the 3-month Euribor rate stayed between 2 and 6%. If the Euribor left that 2 to 6% range, then the MDP would have to pay Santander some extra money, calculated as follows. 2 times the difference between the actual rate and the closest threshold, so if the Euribor was 1%, then MDP would have to pay 2%, in addition to the previous payment. You don't have to be very good at math to realize that this can easily end up with the MDP paying over 100% interest rates.
I agree that this swap was not fair, clear.
Because when the financial crisis hit in 2009, the Euribor suddenly dropped to around 0.5%. For every quarter that the Euribor sat below 2%, MDP was tacking on more and more debt, eventually reaching rates over 40%.
I think one of the reasons why they called for the swap was because of the need of liquidity.
So wait a minute, so interest rates dropped and they were paying even worse interest rates? Why didn't they refinance?
When you are in need, you have more difficulties on negotiate.
This debt snowball ended up in UK courts, and both sides agreed in 2017 to restructure the loan under new terms that weren't as, dare I say, stupid. This whole debacle clearly didn't help MDP's finances, and they continue to stagger.
This is where being a socialist is cool, because you just walk in there with a gun and you say, yeah, we're not doing this. And when I say gun, I mean the government, the state. And you're like, yeah, no, we're not paying 40%. Nah.
For long until 2023, when the Portuguese state stepped in and began a 99.9% debt equity swap, essentially a buyout that would erase the MDP's entire debt load.
And this is very important, because if you have a very important debt in any company, you have always losses, and the losses are very high. Even if you can do a lot of savings in operational costs, but doesn't help anything. So you are not even motivated to that. You are focused only on how to pay the debt every day.
By wiping the slate clean, the MDP has a real chance to right some wrongs.
Bankers, man.
This metro system has gone through the spin cycle, but I'm still really impressed that it even got built in the first place. What's even more impressive is that when considering the wider economic, social, and environmental benefits, Valaris and Pinho found that the MDP returned over 9 times its initial €2 billion investment. It's clearly been profitable from this holistic standpoint. The tricky thing, and this goes for every transit system in the world pretty much, is that none of these externalities can be captured by the operating agency as revenue.
If there are positive externalities, you have to measure in a very accurate way, but then these externalities should be compensated. Otherwise, the other alternative is to make the user pay this. But if you do this, the demand reduces and the externalities become much smaller.
I explained this idea of subsidizing transit and allocative efficiency in one of my videos way back. Looking forward, the network is currently being expanded with the Rose and Ruby lines, helping relieve capacity issues and addressing some of those route deficiencies we discussed earlier. And Professor Pinot is doing all he can to make sure that these new routes are backed by data.
We had to transmit that to local politicians, that in some cases, some proposals would make sense, but in some other cases, similar proposals wouldn't make any sense at all. It would be a disaster.
My central takeaway from the Metro's entire story is that Porto just got it done. The routes weren't perfect, the train cars are honestly pretty space inefficient, and their finances blew up in spectacular fashion.
But just take a look at the areas it's transformed, the amount of cars it's taken off the streets, and the sheer number of people that use this thing every single day. It's pretty hard to call it anything but a success.
I don't think it is possible for a new generation to conceive the city of Oporto without a metro system. That's it.
This is one of the things that is very important to understand, is that debt and money are fictitious social constructs. A fucking railroad, a dam, a bridge, a university, a hospital, those are material. Once they're created, they exist and they're fixed to the land. No country ever killed itself by having too much infrastructure. It's just not a thing. Jackson Hinkle. ACP executive Jackson Hinkle is welcomed by citizens as he arrived at Saeed Hassan Nasrallah's funeral to pay his respects. I think it's pretty definitively clear that they're working with some form of intelligence services. He's just not popular enough for this to be something that is happening organically. There's no other way to put it. One of the most base religious principles is a ban on charging interest on loans. It's ignored by most religious people, but oh yeah, of course. Is ACP a bunch of grifters? I wouldn't put it that way. I wouldn't put it that way. Grifter is such a worthless word at this point. It doesn't even mean anything. Ugh. Not super familiar with Hinkle, but what are we doing the left hates each other thing by being like, fuck this dude? Nah, he's just kind of, you know, the MAGA communist stuff is laughably stupid. That's all you can say. All right, chat. I want to show you guys. We're talking about the German elections right now. Oh, wait. Did I ever finish the article? I never finished the article. I just stopped talking about it. Fuck. We should finish the article. I'm in this article. What am I doing? Hassan thinks they're feds. I think they're feds. I think they're feds. Piker did not want his Twitch channel to grow explosively. Anyway, think of going to a bar where someone's violently drunk or a restaurant with screaming babies. So this is where I got distracted. I said that Ethan Klein's community is basically screaming babies welcome. Cry bully welcome. Pin a link for the article. Oh yeah, shit. Good point. Mods? I don't want to be mentioned in the mainstream spaces because that opens my community growth, said Piker. That changes the speed. Growing at a deliberate pace allowed Piker to be more hands-on in curating his community. Like other streamers, he relied on moderators to put riff-raff and time out. But he also gained a reputation for wading in the buck himself. To this day, Piker regularly calls out chatters who habitually disrupt the flow of conversation or clearly trying to egg him on. Consistently making examples of the worst, he believes, has allowed him to create an environment in which he's able to actually engage with chat, unlike many other streamers his size. This is one of my strongest beliefs, is that your audience reflects the streamer. Like the way the chat acts is a fair mirror of the streamer themselves. This has always been the case. Like Asmongold's audience saying W Hitler, W Nazis is a reflection of Asmongold. Like it's because that's what Asmongold wants his audience to say. I mean, it is what it is. Also, did you guys notice that Ethan Klein hasn't talked about Asmongold saying W Nazi or his community? Have you noticed that Ethan Klein hasn't taken any time out, as far as I'm aware, to stand up against Asmongold? It's because Asmongold and Destiny kind of get along. So Ethan Klein doesn't care about somebody having a community saying W Nazi, because it's not about caring about anti-Semitism. It's about attacking me and Hassan and Denims and Frogan, etc. I've specified that the reflective part is coming from the people that want to be there, not from the hate watchers like Diddy G. Oh, no, I mean, you're not going to see, like, my haters don't actually know what I say. Like, the people that, quote, hate me don't actually hate me. It is a 2-minute hate. It's right out of 1984. They hate this invented fantasy that has been conjured up as a safe enemy that we can all hate. That's what they hate. They hate that idea, right? They hate that. And it's the same thing with Hassan. They don't hate Hassan. They hate this invented, buzzword called Hassan. You're confusing their buzzword for when you say Hassan and they say Hassan, you're saying different things. They don't actually watch our content. They don't actually, like, what do you think most of the things they try to bring up are not related to my political work. I have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of political content. How many times is a hate clip showing a clip of me talking about a subject and saying this is why Mike is wrong? How many times? Never. I've been doing political content for 6 years and no one has ever found a clip that they debunk my clip and then say this is Mike is wrong on this politics thing. Not in 6 years. They talk about they get like 11-year-old stories. Isn't that crazy? An Italian series about the rise of fascism in Italy is about to be internationally released and it could make a decent movie night event. Looks really good. I'm excited. That looks really, really good. Mussolini, son of the century. Oh man, that seems pretty good. We might have to watch that on movie night. That looks cinema. I like the talking to the camera stuff. Personally, I think that looks good. Looks fun. All right. Anyway, let's read the article. Can we read the fucking article? I think that's why I've been able to navigate through the space and maintain a community of 30 to 40,000, sometimes 150,000 people simultaneously, where I can still have a back and forth conversation with anyone and everyone and do that in a productive manner while I'm talking about risky things that most streamers would never even consider talking about. Even for a Twitch streamer, Piker's intense about keeping up his chat, says Salem Saberhagen, a fan who runs a popular Piker meme account on Instagram called Hasanabi Posting. 50,000 people could be watching chat whizzing by and he'll catch one of us joking, asking questions, or talking shit. And of course, the odds of him actually going back and forth with chatters makes them even more eager to interact. It tickles this little social need inside all of us, I think, for better or worse. Salem with a good take. By many measures, Piker grew quickly despite his best efforts to keep everybody from piling into the pool at once. Even in 2019 and early 2020, when he was establishing himself, regular audiences of hundreds grew to audiences of thousands. In early 2019, he had fewer than 30,000 Twitch followers. By the same time the next year, he'd had over 200,000. He couldn't maintain his oasis forever. Before long, Piker and the Young Turks came to what Uyghur calls a mutual decision to separate due to both Piker's desire for independence and the potential for unconstrained commentary to be associated with the Young Turks. Chat, how stupid is this? I want you to imagine. This is what we call the worst businessman of all time. You have someone who's blowing up, who goes from 30,000 to hundreds of thousands of followers in a year as a media personality, and you're like, I don't know, you said America deserved 9/11. That's a little too spicy. You know who was saying that? A whole bunch of CIA analysts who were like, this is called blowback. Cenk Uygur may be the worst media businessman I've ever seen in my entire life. No, let's get rid of Hassan. And we're gonna hire more Dave Rubins and Michael Tracy's. The incredible stupidity. I'm sorry, folks. I hate to be an asshole, but like, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? That's terrible. Working outside the bounds of mainstream media, but still running a more traditional network than Piker, Uygur now believes his nephew's ascent was inevitable. You don't say. Wow. How could you possibly see it coming, except for the part where he was constantly going viral and had hundreds of thousands of followers out of nowhere? Imagine being Cenk Uygur. The Young Turks were not as large as the mainstream media, but we don't get the same leeway as Piker because we still have to be cognizant of advertisers generally and other companies, he says. So this is Cenk saying that he censors his commentary for money. When you're a one-man shop on Twitch, you can say not only the things that are true like we do, but you could say it in the irreverent way that audiences, and especially young audiences, connect to. And so a guy like Piker was bound to arise. He's just particularly adept at it, so he's the perfect guy for the perfect time.
And so here we are. I'm living up to what I said about conservatives and progressives. We're having a conversation. So you said America deserved 9/11. Did you mean that?
Yeah.
It's so stupid. It's such a stupid video, dude.
Like, the video is so good that the reaction to the video is also now a meme. It's the way he laughed. This is why we're winning, folks. This is why we're winning. All right, let's keep going. By the time 2020 rolled around, Twitch audiences began to regard Piker not as just a worthwhile follow, but as indispensable viewing. This is because in the year of pandemic and election-born unpredictability, he did not simply report the news. Instead, he cut through the clutter, curated the chaos in a distinctly modern fashion. Instead of reading off a teleprompter or arguing with talking heads, he pulled information from a variety of sources, web browser bristling with links to breaking news on Twitter and YouTube, as well as networks like CNN and Fox News. He used the same tools any of us might have access to, and viewers saw what he saw: his web browser, a chat panel, and the video feed of Piker himself. There was nothing fancy about it, but that was part of the appeal. Piker effectively showed his work, earning more immediate trust than the distant suit-clad anchors on mainstream networks. And this is the thing about TYT. This is the problem with TYT. TYT is just trying to copy MSNBC. Fundamentally, what is wrong with TYT is they don't lean into what makes the internet special. They're just trying to copy MSNBC. And if somebody doubted him, they could say that as much in chat, at which point he'll either throw down with them verbally or correct the record. As Vice put it in a piece about Piker's coverage of the 2020 presidential election, when your parents were most likely watching CNN's John King tap around an electoral map on a giant touchscreen, Piker sorted through exit polls and early reporting the same way I did, clicking frantically between tabs of different news sites, YouTube streams, and various chats. Last night, I watched Piker and his guest play for time as he clicked through on the wrong tab in his disorganized browser at least 3 times. I saw myself and the way I engage with politics and the news, and not just Piker's political opinions, but the way he uses the internet itself. Piker is able to identify and discuss that politician's tweet, the way that reporters analyze the news and comment on it in articles and on social media, and the raw polling data in a way that explains our current moment. And he does it in a way that makes politics legible and understandable, even at its most cruel and confusing. Bayer believes that old media institutions are crumbling away precisely because they failed to take advantage of the sorts of tools with which Piker and himself have access. If there's breaking news, I have 4,000 people watching. Somebody could bring me official stuff right away. I can also take that information that people are getting to me and try to teach my audience how to be less susceptible to fake news, to be skeptical and how to interpret information and look at sources and who's saying things. And so I think the generation gap is the biggest reason that old forms of media are dying, because they don't take advantage of the opportunities and they don't provide the interactivity which I think that younger generations want from their content. Moreover, Piker provide context through a coherent lens. The systems we've relied upon for decades, he posited, are failing us because they're built to turn a quick and dirty profit, not to last. This positioned him as a refreshing alternative to mainstream news in the eyes of fed-up millennials and Zoomers, where even liberal networks were, at most, only willing to tickle at the idea that the capitalist status quo might be failing the broader populace. Piker made the case on no uncertain terms every single day. For viewers, it was like having a doctor finally diagnose a sickness after years of being told nothing was wrong. There was a relief in finding someone who could tell them effectively that they were not crazy. And that's exactly why we're going to win. Because we have materialist analysis. When I have an opinion, it is based on my personal experiences. It is based on knowledge. It is based on education. It's based on polling data. It's based on comparative politics with other countries. Stuff that you're never going to get on MSNBC. Like, I could show you Mexico and see Claudia Sheinbaum and AMLO destroyed the old center-left party of Mexico. And they now have a 70% approval rating doing real progressive change. And I show you that they don't have to throw immigrants behind. They don't have to throw trans people behind. They don't have to compromise in the way the Democratic Party is telling you you have to compromise. You can dream big and act big, and the people will be there with you. That's not something you're going to hear on MSNBC. MSNBC is going to show you just what they want you to hear. They're not going to give you a broader, worldwide, deeply political and materialist perspective. That's why they fail. My Mexican friend hates Claudia. How do I fix him? Sounds about white. This is in part of what he's an extreme minority. He's on the extreme right wing. He's in the rightmost 25% or 20% of Mexicans, just so you know. This is in part is why Piker is able to perform the Herculean task of functioning as a hybrid political commentator / news network for 8+ hours per day. The principal characters might change, but the underlying causes of America's biggest political problems remain the same. I have a worldview and a foundation that I've built on what I believe in and what I want to say about a particular subject. The way things are in America and all around the world really is that these systems of oppression don't necessarily change. Sometimes I'll pull up a video from 2016 and I'm like, this is the exact same thing I said in 2016 about abortion. And unfortunately, it's still the exact same thing I would say about abortion, police brutality, labor rights, wealth inequality, you name it. None of those issues have been solved. So I've already have a lot of things that I have said and a lot of things I believe that I find myself repeating. This is the other thing. Like politics, you have to understand something about politics, which is things change, but things remain the same. And progressing and delivering change while also observing the things that are not changing is part of the job. This is not to say that Piker is infallible, nor does he regard himself that way. He regularly tells viewers that he's just a normal guy and that if he can grasp a concept, anybody can. The rest is a collective effort. In some cases, he leans on his chat, far more media literate than the average band of Twitch viewers, to pull up and fact check information. Oftentimes, though, he trusts the expertise of traditional journalists. There's a lot of legacy media still does that someone like myself will never do. In my opinion, that they should never do op-ed stuff. They should keep doing journalism instead, good journalism, because that is the most important part of their job, whether I agree with them or not, whether I agree with publishers or not. Whatever I yell about the New York Times or the Washington Post regularly, it doesn't change the reality that they're still doing something that is necessary and incredibly important. I agree with Hassan here. Oh God, chat. Let's look at the comments. Dude, this website is turning into Kotaku and I'm not down for it. Gamers hating capitalism will never make sense for me. Video games are very much a product of the free market. We would have never gotten this industry in a command economy. Capitalism is a perfect... First of all, command economy is not the only way to do socialism. Jesus fucking Christ. The idea that greed, scarcity, inequality, and exploitation would go away in a socialist or communist society is completely disconnected from history, philosophy, and social science. Your beef isn't with capitalism, bro. It's with human nature. So this is an ideological liberal. Guys, capitalism, the system that's 200 years old, is actually human nature. Don't dig too far at his views on Ukraine or Taiwan as a couple of examples. You might hit a thick layer of imperialist crust. This is my favorite type of Destiny supporter. I do that. 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 Don't we have an emote for that? What's the emote again? I forgot what the emote is. Yes. What is it? What are the early? Yes. You're talking about Tetris. Yes. Tetris was made in the USSR. Yes. Correct. Wow. You guys really think this guy is good? This guy who raised millions for people in Turkey and Gaza, the guy who did a fundraiser for cocaine? Last I checked, he made comments in support of Russia. Legitimately, chat, I want to get you guys to buy the book. Buy the fucking book. The link is at the bottom of the article. Buy this fucking book. Pre-order the book. All right, chat. We've got ourselves a new second thought video on the economy. Let's get into that. I think one of the things that's the most frustrating about liberals is that they just refuse to engage with substance. Everything is about everything is very much about presenting things in a certain way and then telling people to just kind of nod along. Not very much in the way of substance. Like, what do you disagree with on the Ukraine takes? We were proved completely right. I'll give you an example of me being proved right on Ukraine. It isn't that hard. You just go to my Twitter account, you search Ukraine, Mike from PA. Most of my family was murdered by Russia in 2022. Russia is a terrorist state. No, this is Project Liberal. This is the group that Kyle Kalinske was working with. I said, you'll abandon Ukraine after you kill 1 million more conscripts and destroy the economy of the country. June 13th, 2024. Looks like that's happening. Let me see. I'm looking through. All right, hold on. I used to post whenever I would go live. Wow. These dogs don't extend the same charity to Palestinians. Sorry for the dead air, guys. Let's start the video. I gotta pee. Right back.
Come back in American history.
It's been just under a month since Trump took office, and right now, everyone's wondering one of two things. What happens next, and how did we get here again?
Well, what happened last night?
What has happened to America?
I'm still trying to figure out what happened.
Liberals clearly didn't see Trump coming back, and in the aftermath of his victory, while Democrats pinned the blame for their loss on leftists, pro-Palestinian protesters, Latinos, and anyone but themselves, one theme just kept showing up. And that's
The economy. The economy.
The economy.
The economy.
The economy.
The economy.
So, okay, the general consensus since the election is that if Trump won, it's because the economy was bad and the Democrats didn't listen. You can find this take everywhere from the Washington Post to the New York Times and on CBS, according to whom Trump's voters view the US economy as bad, while most Harris voters view the economy as good. And their poll numbers show that the divide is a lot more dramatic than you might expect. And look, it's not hard to see where this divide is coming from. The Harris campaign pretty much ran on a line of, everything is fine, trust us.
There are lots of signs that the American economy is doing very well.
We now have historic low unemployment in America among all groups of people. We now have an economy that is thriving by all macroeconomic measures.
Compare that to Trump.
We had the strongest economy in history. If Harris wins this election, the result will be a Kamala economic crash.
I know a lot of you are struggling. I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills. It's going to stop when Donald Trump brings back common sense to this country.
But who's right? Well, that depends. What is the economy? Is it inflation? Sure. Is it the number of new jobs? Maybe. Unemployment? Grocery store shortages? The stock market? The average hourly wage? All totally valid definitions of the economy. And that means that, in a way, they were both right. The thing about the economy is that it's pretty much just whatever you say it is. And that meant a lot of liberals were baffled that working-class Trump voters couldn't see how well the economy was doing. We saw a lot of people condescendingly point out that wages on the low end rose faster under Biden and inflation was under control towards the end at a regular 2-ish%. But maybe the most infuriating thing we've seen coming out of this post-election econ snark has been this idea that Biden left things better than when he came in, and people shouldn't be upset because America's been experiencing GDP growth way stronger than other countries.
I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise and America's falling behind. They've got it backwards. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world. And since I've come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade.
The thing is, though, those at the bottom are still only making a punishing $28,000 a year, with a lot of states still way under the now mostly irrelevant $15 minimum wage we've been trying to get for over a decade. And yes, it's true that under Biden, inflation has stopped for a lot of goods, but those higher prices didn't disappear. There's a huge problem in the way we talk about the economy. Not only is it always a vague term, this one number, GDP, which has become a universal standard for how well an economy is doing, tells us absolutely nothing about how you and I actually live. Actually, it's worse than that. All this attention paid to the economy and macroeconomic indicators like GDP actively makes it seem like what's best for you and me just happens to coincide with what's best for Wall Street and your boss. And that's just not true. But we should back up for a second. Hey everyone, just wanted to stop by and offer a quick thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. We really could not do this channel without you. So big thank you to you guys. If you'd like to support the channel and you're not yet a Patreon member, you can check it out at patreon.com/secondthought. Where we've got some excellent perks for you guys, including access to our Discord server, where we have a book club and a dedicated educator role ready to answer any questions you might have about socialism. All right, on to the video. The first thing you need to know is that the idea of the economy is only about 100 years old. It's only in the 1930s, in this book, that we first get the word economy showing up the way we mean it now. The word itself is much older, of course. It comes from the ancient Greeks. But it's Keynes who first theorized the economy as this complicated network of monetary transactions we understand it as now. He is the guy to thank/blame for the fact that we all intuitively imagine a separate thing from politics and society that we call the economy. That is, in theory, the sum of all the moments at which money changes hands.
Show me the money!
Keynes's General Theory was a truly transformative book for economics and politics. But his ideas would have been immediately forgotten if there was no way to make them useful. And to do that, you needed a way to measure this economy he was talking about. Enter GDP, or as it was called back then, GNP, the gross national product. It's a metric invented by these guys that tries to measure the final value of all the goods and services in a country. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's the point of the rest of the video, so, chill out. But when we hear people talk about
China is looking to swoop into the vacuum the US is leaving in the EU. I mean, if I was the European Union, if I was in the political leadership of the European Union, the thing that I would be doing is creating Europe as an independent pole, an independent bloc. And I would reevaluate all of my relationships with all other blocs. And I would have a positive relationship with China as long as it was positive and reciprocal. Like, why the fuck is Europe on the other side of the world fighting China? That makes absolutely no sense.
The economy, capital T, capital E, doing well, usually they mean that GDP is going up. In fact, getting this number to go up is the explicit mission of a lot of government projects, and if anything is expected to make the number go down, you can be pretty confident it won't make it past Congress. The EU, for example, both in 1997 and 2012, made it so that all the member countries are constitutionally forced to respect specific ratios between their GDP and their public deficit and sovereign debt. Likewise, in the US, tax cuts, like those we saw under Bush, were brought in on the justification that they'd increase GDP. And on the Department of Commerce's website, the government is explicit about how important this number is for all sorts of policies and departments. GDP growth is king when it comes to the economy. But there's a lot wrong with
I've heard the added spice to it is since China shares a huge border with Russia, they won't step on their toes in terms of any energy deals either. Why would they? EU should restructure their economy, let China provide subsidized cheap car and tech, renewables, and shift their economy toward fourth industrial. I don't even know what Europe, what does Europe provide to the world besides standing upon imperialist plunder? It's not very productive agriculturally. It's not very productive industrially. Like, honestly, if the world was developed, Europe should probably be one of the poorer regions. It's cold, it's rocky, doesn't have, honestly, Europe should probably be poorer than Africa and Latin America and China and the United States. Like, it's kind of weird that Europe is as rich as it is. I mean, for most of human and civilizational history, China was the most developed place on Earth, was the wealthiest place on Earth. And Europe was a poor backwater. And I think as the rest of the human race develops, it's probably going to end up that way. Europe has great weather. No, it doesn't. Southern California has great weather. That's great weather. Europe, no.
GDP growth. For one thing, and stay with me here, growth isn't real. Remember the 1930s? If any of you actually do remember the 1930s, I will be very impressed.
Banks by the hundreds, by the thousands are forced to close. The whole financial system quakes and totters.
Right as Keynes and Kuznets were developing the economy and GDP, two important things were happening. One, the US had just gone through the brutal Great Depression, and the New Deal was kicking in to fix the mess. Two, oil was discovered in East Texas and Iraq, becoming this magic resource that seemed to deliver tons of new, seemingly limitless energy. On the New Deal side, the government needed a way to track what was going on in society, all these inputs and outputs, to predict what the impact of all its new policies were going to be on the suddenly very visible issues of unemployment and future tax revenue. On the oil side, new oil fields were being discovered at such an insane pace that, right as tracking economic indicators became important, it stopped making sense to track the possibility of the things that fueled growth ever running out. With how much was being found, it just sort of seemed like you could consume oil infinitely and, for the most part, ignore how much it might cost to replace it. And this mattered because oil did so much.
This land is so saturated with oil that you can literally wring it out with your finger.
Not only was oil powering American cars and all the infrastructure built around them, the mid-20th century fossil boom gave us plastics, which you could use to make pretty much anything, and synthetic fertilizers, which pretty much meant unlimited food. Basically, this one thing, oil, had solved government in the immediate aftermath of the greatest economic tragedy the country had seen.
With their gushing oil wells and super hotels and count up their money all day.
The numbers kept growing thanks to this magical liquid, which had negligible assumed costs, and they could keep growing forever because it seemed like there was always more waiting to be found. Coal had reached its peak. There was no more west to expand on. But thanks to oil, you could reasonably claim that things were just getting better for everyone.
I mean, oil also made entire regions of the United States and the world that were totally fucking worthless and totally valueless suddenly have a tremendous amount of value. Like, Texas without oil probably has 1/10 of the population.
Because oil killed the idea that humans had to compromise with natural limits. Not in energy, not in food, not in stuff. And to back it up, you now had a number that grew every year and was expected to keep growing forever, calculating how much better off everyone was from the year before. So why is growth not real then? Beyond just the fantasy of limitless energy, GDP is a static measure. It's like taking a picture of everything that people are spending money on at a moment in time and calculating how much it's worth. To get growth, you need something to compare that picture to. Another picture, taken later. Take your apartment, for example. Every year, your landlord hikes rent a couple percent. Your apartment hasn't changed. It hasn't gotten that, let's say, 5% better, but now it costs more. Thanks to that, the picture from last year and the picture from right now look different. Economists call that growth. Same story, for example, if you got slapped with a medical bill you can't afford. The debt you take out to pay it back, that's growth too. GDP went up, so now everyone gets to pat themselves on the back because, look, the economy is thriving. There is no possible other way.
We've seen tremendous growth in the cancer treatment segment of medicine. Look at our GDP has grown by 5%. Yay! Everyone has cancer. Yay!
Interpret that.
That's how capitalists do actually interpret society.
See, the way GDP works assumes that any increase in how much money people spend can be interpreted as an improvement. In order to imagine that, you need to delude yourself into thinking that people only spend money on things they want to, have total freedom to pay the price they think is fair for the things they buy, and that anything of value can or should be able to be bought. And if your goal is to make that GDP number grow, you need to delude yourself even further into thinking there is no limit to this, that the oil will never run out, that the forests will never be gone, and that there will always be more people ready to slave away and produce more shareholder value. Because cutting a tree down to sell the wood makes the number go up, but growing a tree doesn't. The problem is that none of those assumptions hold. Under capitalism, the price of something has nothing to do with how much it's worth to you, and everything to do with how much you can be made to pay for it. Like, okay, think of it like this. I love taking walks after lunch. It doesn't cost me anything, and it would make a lot more economic sense if somebody charged me every time I wanted to. But until my shoes are paywalled and the park installs a turnstile, that daily improvement in the quality of my life isn't going to show up anywhere in any economist's GDP calculation. And it shouldn't. But that's a matter of opinion. When Kuznets developed GNP, it brought up a lot of difficult questions just like that. Questions like, should casino revenues be included in the total? The answer was yes, by the way, that's a business making the economy grow. Obviously. So, should we also include the money?
We love our casinos, don't we, folks? We love gambling. We love gambling. When people go and they bet on card flips, that's the economy growing.
Made from illegal gambling? Well, no, it's illegal. Obviously that shouldn't count, right? What about advertising? What about stock trading? What about the military?
Oh, some more plane crashes? 2 planes were involved in a fatal crash this morning at Mariana Regional Airport in Arizona. wonder what happened.
Military. Kuznets was adamant that military spending was, quote, at best a necessary evil, but still an evil. It was a cost, and he strongly believed that it shouldn't be counted on the side of growth. But that wasn't too popular of an idea for the US government, increasingly infiltrated by the defense industry and getting ready to launch into World War II and spend a lot more on guns. If military spending was counted against GDP growth, that could be a reason to limit it and to really consider all the different costs of this technology we've developed to vaporize people around the world. But if it was just another thing making the economy grow, which at that point we all agree is what's best for everyone, why would we ever deprive ourselves of obliterating a couple million brown kids who don't even live here? Or take healthcare for a second. Cuba's healthcare system delivers identical, if not better results than what we have in the US on all sorts of key indicators. Cuba has a lower child mortality rate, similar life expectancy, and is regularly able to send doctors abroad to help with epidemics and crises, all within the context of a 60-year American embargo that every country in the world except the US and Israel has voted to end, multiple times. Cuba's healthcare system is not organized like it is here. It costs way less to achieve similar and often even better results. But because all this costs less, Cuban GDP suffers. Expensive and inefficient counts as growth for the US, cheap and effective counts against Cuba. So, why care? Why does everyone seem to use GDP if it's such a flawed measure? For a while, they didn't. The Soviet Union, for example, used what it called the material product system that relied more heavily on the physical quantity of goods. Other countries, though, were often forced to adopt GDP through the IMF and World Bank, who set growth targets in GDP terms in exchange for access to loans and international goods. So eventually, GDP is what almost everyone started using. GDP, mind you. What Kuznets originally developed was GNP, the gross national product. The metric everyone uses now is the gross domestic product. That's because GNP is calculated by following the nationals of a given country, regardless of where they are. But GDP is explicitly territorial. Part of the reason behind the change from GNP to GDP that happened in the 1990s, right as everyone is turning on their economic calculators, is that it effectively hid how dramatically exploitative globalization was for some countries. Instead of following where the profits ended up,
fire at PA Aerospace Factory? Oh no.
Usually in the hands of Western CEOs and shareholders, a lot of countries seemed like they were suddenly developing and growing at a crazy rate, even though they
were. Are people trying to disagree with me that China was like the home of the most of the world economy and culture for most of human history? Is that what, are people actually trying to disagree with me? You have to be white. You have to be a white American to believe that. You literally do not know anything about history. Like, legitimately, that's funny. Rome was great. We love Rome. But that was one civilization that fell. If you look at India and you look at China, there's a reason why they have some of the largest populations of any nations. It's because it's been the most productive societies for a very long time. That only changed in the Victorian era with imperialism. Like, god damn, dude. Like, come on.
Weren't the ones keeping the money because GDP focuses on where the money is made, not who gets it. But more than any of these other reasons, though, the staying power of GDP comes from the way it lies about politics. It makes politics seem like we're all in this together, and all we need is a good technocrat who will run the economy like a business and make it grow. If growth is an objective goal that we can measure empirically, we just need to find the perfect levers to pull, and that way we automatically squash any debate with an objective answer. So if people believe that growth is good no matter what, in the words of the Federal Reserve System Governor Henry Wallach, then quote, growth is a substitute for equality of income. So long as there is growth, there is hope, and that makes large income differentials tolerable. If you can sell people on the idea that growth benefits everyone, even though it doesn't, you can kill class politics. All GDP is a measure of prices, the prices of commodified goods and services. Growth is only ever an increase in commodification and commodity production. Like, If we made iPhones with batteries that could last twice as long, GDP would go down. If we took healthcare and education and made them public services, affordable and universal, GDP would go down.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually one of the main things that liberals argued against Medicare for All, because it would actually cause deflation, in the sense that because there would be so much less paperwork and bureaucratic bloat, we would be spending significantly less money on healthcare section of the economy. And so they were like, no, we can't do that. If we do that,
if you were less exploited by your boss, GDP would go down. Your life would be better even if the economy stopped growing. But when all these different politicians use the economy as a shortcut to get your vote, telling you how much growth they've achieved or they're going to bring, you can be confident that it isn't your approval that they're after. They want growth because all growth means is more of your life being decided by someone else's profit. It's more turnstiles at the park, more iPhones in the landfill, more oil being extracted. It's a 100-year-old lie based on myths we've long debunked, and neither party is interested in being honest about it.
Andrew Yang talked about replacing GDP as the primary economic indicator one time, and he got banished into the void. Well, yeah, that we know that GDP is not a good way of measuring the economy.
Comes to questions about who is the administrator of Doge, actually. Do you believe that's an important question to have the answer to?
No, the issue is not who is technically the administrator, who has the title. Elon Musk is clearly running the show, the wealthiest person in the world, who has enormous conflicts of interests, who is helping to fund right-wing extremist organizations all over the world, who is looking forward to get massive tax breaks from Congress. He's running the show.
So if he's running the show, but not on paper, as they essentially argue, but you say in practice, he basically is. You're a co-equal branch of government as a senator on Capitol Hill.
I kind of thought so, but I think you have to explain that to the president.
Do you feel that you have oversight when it comes to what Elon Musk is doing?
Look, what we're seeing right now, Caitlin, is a very dangerous moment. I'm laughing here, but it is not funny. This country is moving very rapidly under Trump into an authoritarian form of society. You know, the founding fathers, way back in the 1770s, these were nobody's fools. And what they had fought the King of England, an autocrat, had all the power, and they said, you know what? We don't want that in the new country. We're going to set up 3 separate equal branches of government. And every kid in the 6th grade knows who they are. But Trump does not. And what Trump is doing now is trying every day to usurp the powers of Congress, to challenge the powers of the court. It is a very dangerous moment.
Well, the question, though, when it comes to what this looks like, is we haven't seen a ton of resistance from Capitol Hill, and we have seen some efforts in the courts. These Democratic attorneys.
By the way, it's Democratic attorneys general and the groups that are suing in the courts. It's not Democratic senators and congresspeople that are suing. They're sitting on their fat fucking asses doing nothing. They're voting for all of Donald Trump's cabinet members.
Democratic attorneys general stepped in. But today, a federal judge here, Tanya Chutkan, she's well known to our audience from the Trump trials, she declined to block Musk and his team from getting access because she basically said she wasn't getting specific enough examples from these AGs about how Musk could cause irreparable harm to their state. And if they can't prove that in court, what does that say?
Well, I tell you what I happen to believe. At the end of the day, the struggle against Trump, the struggle against oligarchy, which is led by Elon Musk, the struggle against authoritarianism, the fight to make sure that the working class of this country gets a fair shake, that is not going to be won here in Capitol Hill. It's going to be won by millions of people all over this country standing up and saying, you know what, we fought and died for democracy. We're not going to move toward authoritarianism. We fought to create a country that works for all, not just the billionaire class. That's the struggle, and I'm going to be active in trying to rally the American people to do just that.
Well, and you're embarking on this tour to combat this. It's a national tour. You're starting in Nebraska and Iowa. How do you break through to people, though? There are some people, Trump voters, who are even independent voters, who like what Elon Musk is doing and say, yeah, the federal government does spend too much money and it is too bloated.
And the truth is, the federal government is a bureaucracy. We have to acknowledge that. Federal government perfect, far from it. Do we need to bring about reforms? Absolutely. But let us be clear what these guys really want to do. Do you think that Elon Musk is staying up night just worrying about excessive spending in the CDC? I don't think so. At the end of the day, what these guys want and what Trump wants is to cut programs that working class people need. They're talking, the House Budget Committee released their report, their budget, $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. Do you know what that means? It's not only that millions of people, kids, are going to be thrown off the health insurance they have, devastating to nursing homes, 40% of the revenue coming into community health centers. 30 million people get their health care, community health centers. That's coming from Medicaid. You cut Medicaid, you're going to dismember an already broken health care system. What are they going to do with that money? They're going to give it to tax breaks for the richest people in America. Over $1 trillion.
Do you think we should apply pressure to Bernie to start his own party? Yes. I've been saying it. I tried. I honest to God wanted him. Ethan Klein claiming the H3 Snark subreddit is as bad as him. You have spent all your free time since October 7th, 2023 in an effort to torture me, my wife, my family, my employees, my friends. Dude, this is what you're doing to Hassan. What are you talking about? We have been ignoring you, Ethan. When you made it clear you were a Zionist, when you made it clear you supported Yoav Galant's genocide, honestly, Hassan was nice to you by just ignoring you. You're the one who has allied yourself with Sex Pestany and Dan Saltzman and the most virulent pro-genocidal Zionists on the planet. That's you. There's a Bernie event in a city 2 hours from me on this Saturday. Do you think I should go? I should go. When is it going to be in Like, when is Bernie doing anything in California? Does anyone have his link to his tour that he's doing? Maybe we should go as a group. That might be fun. Maybe we should go as a group. We could do a class field trip, but I need to know where they're going. Anyway, let's keep going.
$1 billion goes in tax breaks to the top 1%. That is what these guys want. They want more wealth. They want more power. American people are going to have to stop them.
Well, and what you're referencing, this is like the blueprint, essentially, that we got from House Republicans. It's not clear what realistically they're going to be able to pass here, but they're looking to have $4.5 trillion in tax cuts.
Right.
And basically, this plan instructed the Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicaid, to find those $880 billion in cuts. Realistically, what should voters be worried about if you hear from some moderate Republicans who say, we're not going to touch Medicaid, that's not going to be on the table?
Well, no one is saying that. I mean, right now, what we are trying to do in a House which is almost evenly divided, if 2 Republicans, 2 out of 435 members, say, you know what, we're not going to vote to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut programs that children and the elderly and the hungry desperately need. 2 Republicans, their proposal is dead. And we're going to work hard to make sure not only do we get 2, that we get a hell of a lot more than 2.
On the Elon Musk front, when it comes to Social Security payments and what is actually wrong with government and what's exaggerated, we're hearing this line from the White House that tens of millions of people are getting Social Security fraudulently. Either they're dead or...
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second.
We've gotten no evidence of it, but I looked into this, and what we do know is that there's a lot of people that still remain in the database, but as far as people who are actually getting payments, it was 44,000 who got payments according to an audit that was done in 2023.
Out of how many millions?
There's tens of millions. So when they say tens of millions, that would be
this is what we are dealing with.
Security.
We're not only dealing with oligarchy, the incredible power of the very, very rich. We're not only dealing with a move toward authoritarianism, we're dealing with what is new to America. You know, politicians have always lied, nothing new about that. But the level that we're seeing right now, the big lie, over and over again, and it goes out, there's a big lie, and then it goes out on Musk's Twitter to, several hundred million people, repeated over and over again. Now the word is out there, people on Social Security, 150 years of age. Can you believe it? The whole thing is corrupt. It's broken. Well, where does that lead you, Caitlin? What's the next step? If government can't do anything, if Social Security doesn't work, if Medicare doesn't work, if Medicaid doesn't work, we're going to get rid of all of those programs and we're going to give it over to the billionaire class to run it.
That's what you think they're ultimately trying to do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, not only do they,
Social Security.
they want massive cuts to programs for the working class in this country in order to give tax breaks.
This is exactly the type of stuff, like Bernie Sanders, had he been president, if we had actually been able to win, would have gone down in history as one of our great presidents. This is just a fact. And I think a lot of people, what are the things they do to help cope is they say like, oh no, he would have been blocked. They would have been resisted. You're right. He absolutely would have been blocked and resisted. But the American people would have reacted to support him. And the reality is we've now maneuvered ourselves into a position of such extreme disadvantage because Bernie Sanders wasted the last few good years of his political life defending Joe Biden. Like a profound political error that the human race may never recover from. Generational fumble.
To the very rich. And then they want to move to the privatization of every important government agency. Just the other day, and this really upset me because I used to be chairman of the Veterans Committee, and I feel very strongly about making sure that those men and women who put their lives on the line to defend this country get a fair shake. Right away, 1,000 employees at the VA laid off at a time when the VA healthcare system certainly needs more help than they have right now. At the end of the day, yeah, they're going to want to privatize Veterans Administration, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the Post Office, by the way.
If President Trump were seated next to you, he might say, well, I pledged on the campaign trail that I'm not going to touch Social Security.
Yeah.
What would you say to voters who bring that up?
I think the president has many attributes, but credibility and honesty are not one of them. So I would have my doubts. I'm not saying they're going to go after Social Security tomorrow. They're not. But this is the groundwork. I mean, this is what you do. You destroy the credibility of programs that are complicated, programs that have tens of millions of people. This is the welfare queen again. Look at this person. They got this, they got that. Kill the whole program.
Well, the interesting part about that is actually before Trump took office, the Treasury Department clawed back and recovered $31 million in payments from Social Security that shouldn't have gone out that went out. That was something that they were doing over a 5-month period to deceased individuals. But the point is, I think, that what the Doge team says they're doing was already happening. They were going back and getting the money that was being.
And all that I would ask the American.
Okay, yeah. So they're just making shit up. The Social Security doesn't pay to dead people. It's just not true. And here's one of the things that's really interesting about government in America. If you've ever spent any time in government, which 99% of the people who talk about politics online have never done, is you have to understand that America is completely dysfunctional from the top down. They're not wrong about that. But it's not because of government incompetence. It's because of the Constitution. The Constitution of the United States sucks. And we have these dumb things called states that should not exist. And so we don't just have one Congress, we have 51 Congresses. And they're all, and we don't just have like a environmental protection agency, we've got 51 environmental protection agencies. We have so much bureaucratic duplication in the dumbest way possible. It's fucking garbage. And if I had my druthers, we would abolish the state system. We would abolish which is very unlikely because a lot of people are making money from states. The states are stupid. They're actually worthless. But imagining the United States without the states is pretty tough. Meanwhile, China executing another billionaire. Zhang Hongli, former vice president of the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, was on Wednesday sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve for accepting bribes worth over $24.3 million. Astounding, pretty anarchist with states suck? No, we don't want them. They're useless.
And people to understand is that when you have programs dealing with tens of millions of people, is anyone going to say, hey, there is no fraud, everything is running efficiently? Of course not. There are going to be problems. Every bloody program out there, there are going to be problems. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
So what's the solution?
The solution is,
when they are concerned about fraud and bloat.
The solution is that, of course, we try to get rid of fraud and waste and abuse. And maybe they want to take some of their attention onto the corporate world, the kind of price fixing that goes on there as well. But we want to get rid of fraud and waste. But at the same time, we want to make sure that programs that people desperately need, like Social Security, remain strong. And you know what? You go out and ask the American people whether they want to cut Social Security. They don't want to cut it. They want to expand it. They want to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and vision. They want to expand Medicaid. In fact, as you well know, we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. Health care should be a right. Most Americans agree with that.
You're an independent, but you caucus with the Democrats.
Right.
We have heard from a lot of Democrats privately, some publicly, who say they don't essentially know how to respond to Trump on Capitol Hill. Are there things that you could be doing to respond to them claiming Social Security is?
Yeah, of course, we've got to, I think there's an effort to bring forth a war room. There's a ton of lies and misinformation going out there to respond to that. But the truth of the matter is,
a war room, is that enough? I mean, Trump was elected 3 months ago.
Yeah, well, one of the things, what's not enough is that Elon Musk could say the most outrageous thing tomorrow. It goes out to hundreds of millions of people. Democrats do not have that capability, which takes us to a couple of other issues. It takes us to the fact that should a guy who put, what was it, $270 million into Trump's campaign now become the most important person in the government? Is that really how democracy is supposed to work? Which takes you to a corrupt campaign finance system and the need to overturn citizens.
I love that they cut him off in the middle of a sentence. Good editing. Good editing, chat.
Not Stephen A. threatening us.
Well,
we had him on the show talking about this very issue. Around this time.
Stephen A. Smith. The Stephen A. Smith candidacy. I think one of the issues that we face as a society and as a movement and as a country is the profound unseriousness of our movement and of liberals in general. And I mean, like, nobody serious would say Kamala Harris should be president of the United States, right? Like, we all understand that, right? Like, Hillary Clinton should be president is an unserious idea. And Stephen A. Smith is an unserious idea. And, like, not in a funny way, as in, like, you're fucking stupid and you need to grow up. Like not in a haha, it's funny kind of way, but as in a, this is what you're doing right now. Donald Trump is, like, ripping apart so many systems that people rely upon, and your reaction is a, quite frankly, subpar ESPN commentator, and you're spending your time jerking off over this joke, and it's a fucking joke, and it's a waste of, it's not even particularly funny.
Time, actually, probably a year ago. So this has been floating around for a while.
But can't you make a little bit of an analogy of that? That's what happened with Trump.
Yeah.
In other words, he was like, look, Jeb Bush, what are we going to go? Bush, Clinton, like,
right.
You know, and I don't see anyone else out there who's so great. So I'm going to go in there and he won. Now, I don't know if Stephen Smith is going to win for the presidency.
These are her people. Who was calling Stephen A. Smith?
Well, he said he would take it. If
somebody did call,
if they need him, he'd be like, I'm more than willing. This Stephen A., if you're watching, classic you. He's a wonderful human. He's going to do it for America.
I'll tell you,
I believe he would be great. I'm not even being funny. I believe that he would be great. I need someone to match the bombacity, the outrage, the performance of what we have going on right now. Stephen A. could do that.
I disagree with that. I do think that someone needs to come in. The Democratic Party is now all about anti-Trump, and that's not going to work. When you think of Bill Clinton, you think of home ownership. You think of Obama, you think of healthcare. You think of Trump, you think of immigration. We need somebody to step up and have an issue-spotting agenda where they can say, here's how I'm going to directly help America.
And you think he has?
I don't think Stephen Smith can do it. But clearly somebody has to step
if Democrats drafted a Stephen A., a personality, as somebody who has sort of...
Vio just wakes up and gives me a piece of pie. Do you see what I'm saying, chat? It's not completely my fault. It's not completely my fault. Do you think that Trump will allow legitimate elections ever again? I mean, is he running? I think the thing is, like, Donald Trump, I don't think Donald Trump cares enough about what happens after he dies. I think of him as very much like a pharaoh. Like, what Donald Trump is done with the presidency, I see him spending a lot of time on his, like, the Donald Trump presidential library. Like, I see him, that's the kind of, like, mentality I see from Donald Trump. Also, he might just die one day. You know, like, I'm not calling for him to die. I am not. I want to make this very clear. I'm not saying I want to kill the president of the United States, and I am not saying that I want him to die. Okay? I am not saying that. But what I'm saying is he's obese, 80-some-year-old. Like, he could just drop dead one day. His heart could just explode one day. It's actually something you're not allowed to. Did you guys know that it's illegal to say you want to kill the president of the United States of America? That's like one of the phrases that you're just not allowed to say. I'm not saying it. I'm telling you that's what you're not allowed to say as a public service announcement. The video is funnier. Of course it's funnier.
Culture resonance, would that concern you as a Republican?
Yeah, I want to say to Stephen A., stay where you are, because as a Republican, I want the Democrats to keep doing what they're doing. Because
you think he'd be good.
Yes, I don't want to. Yes, I would say stay where you are. Because I think that
Republicans are such Republicans, like Democrats are such cucks that they're like, oh, what does the Republicans think we should do? We should do what the Republicans say we should do.
Like, the person who is the president has to be a career politician.
I agree.
I think they should have some strong understanding of the government, because if you don't, then you get a Doge. But, you know, for a long time, people were trying. She was the former first lady, but she wasn't a
They wanted
Michelle
Michelle to do it. Sure.
Obama. They wanted
Sure.
Oprah. They've talked about The Rock.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to serve your country.
I'm serious. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, why the Democratic Party is cooked. The Democratic Party is cooked. It believes in nothing. It's not trying to accomplish anything. It's just a grift. Like, people talk about grifts. I told you, Chad, I just got a piece of pecan pie. Like, I told you, Vio just brought me a piece of pecan pie. Unasked for. So these Democrats don't believe in anything. They're not trying to accomplish anything. It's just setting up a grift machine to steal money and enrich their friends. That's it. That's why they're doing this, like, personality shit. And maybe there's a couple of things they latch onto that don't piss off their donors, right? Abortion rights, gay rights, but in a very generic and non-advocacy way. Just kind of generally like, hey, if you want to have sex with so-and-so, the government won't stop you. Like, that's the level of their political argument. I mean, legitimately, the Democrats are just completely fucking worthless. And like, you can see they're out of ideas if this is what they're saying. Stephen A. Smith, Oprah, Michelle Obama. It's just personalities. What do you think is going to happen the moment that Oprah announces she's running for president? Every single person on the right-wing smear machine is going to get to work, and Oprah is going to be just as hated as anyone else because she doesn't represent anything. Like, I legitimately don't see why the Democrats should exist. I don't understand. Like, there isn't a justification for it anymore other than inertia. Inertia is it's sunk cost fallacy of the political party.
In any way, shape, or form, in government or running for public office. I just think whoever it is has to have the qualifications to be able to understand how bills are made.
Wait a second, hold on. I don't know if that's true, Ashley.
Yeah,
I just don't think
that's
true.
That's what I want.
Yeah,
I think that,
but I don't think that's
that
necessary.
we've proven, look, a lot of times at this table, the answer to the question of why is Donald Trump doing X, Y, and Z is, oh, I don't think he knows how this works. So I don't know that knowing how it works is a prerequisite for.
I think Stephen A. would be great.
You want to
Of course you do.
That's the point. He can
I
deliver.
think, chat, basically my take on this is I'm tired of this kind of jokey shit. I'm tired of Daily Show politics. I'm tired of jokey, unserious, dumbass fucking shit like this. I'm tired of it. I'm over. I would like to move on to serious, I care about things and I'm trying for real politics. I would like to stop this like post-ironic, I don't really believe in anything, I don't care about anything, I'm too cool politics to I care and I'm doing something and I believe in it. I want some earnestness back. Can we stop with this? I don't get it.
For a really good message. He is very effective. He is the kind of person that you listen to him, whether you agree or disagree, you're paying attention. He controls the room. And I'm not saying it's all about showmanship, and I'm not saying he should be president. But what I'm saying is, it's not crazy. Look where we are right now.
It is a little bit about showmanship. Let's play SOT 2, because this is what Stephen A. had to say about this.
Get Trump-like. What I mean by that, Tom, is be your real, true, authentic self, for better or worse. Can you genuinely tell me, as a person who covers this stuff for a living, that Trump surprises you? What?
No.
Think about how he acts. Think about the things that he says. And then he goes and he tries to do it. For better or worse, he's letting you know, I don't care.
Speaking truth.
And then
He's
he
speaking fact.
shows up at the Super Bowl.
It's
He
fact.
shows up at a NASCAR game.
Yeah.
Like,
He does whatever he wants.
He is putting himself. We were actually just talking about this in the last segment. He inserts himself into the culture. You cannot ignore him.
Yeah, and look, you may disagree here. He's authentic, and that's what people. Donald Trump. That's what people like about him is that he is authentic.
Right, but he's an anomaly because
these people don't even know what they're talking about. Donald Trump is faker than a set of truck nuts on your, you know, like, no, he's bombastic. He's not authentic. He's bombastic. He's a showman. He's a shiny object. The one thing that you could say is authentic about Trump is that he's an authentic hater. He's authentically a bad person, but a bad person in the way, he's a bad person in a way that the targets of his hate are the people that you hate. That's it. He's not authentic in any way. That's just a misreading.
I'm a criminal defense attorney. He has been so good to criminal
Editor
defense.
Mentum, dude, Stephen A should run. Editor Mentum is bad at politics. Like, he's dumb. He's a dumb liberal. I don't know what you want me to say. You want me to be nice? Like, I can't be nice. He's a 23-year-old upper middle class lib. Who gives a fuck what he says? He's stupid. And he is trying to ape this kind of, and honestly, it sounds like he sounds like a teacher's pet. Like, he's a Zoomer trying to copy this kind of like, I'm too cool to care millennial shit. Do you get what I mean? Like, he doesn't act like other Zoomers. He acts like a Zoomer copying a millennial.
Defendants with the First Step Act and helping people get out of jail, people who were sentenced under the draconian crack laws, who got 10, 20 years for 2 or 3 vials of crack. He's the guy who turned that around. Today he does IVF. He's the president who's making it easier for women who are struggling to get pregnant to get the funding to pay for it.
Well, okay, look, I just want to say about the IVF executive order, it says he's directed his government to study the issue. So we will see what comes out of that. But to your point, the laws of political gravity don't apply to Trump in the same way. You know, he did the First Step Act, got pilloried by conservatives. And
I just think
they reelected
to the
him.
original question, I think Stephen A. would not be a ridiculous candidate. I think he's sitting there and talking about it and thinking about it. And I know that sounds crazy for a lot of people.
But I think there's someone else that we
There
can
is
find
someone
that-
else.
Yes.
I'm not saying.
Can deliver a
I'm
message.
not saying.
I'm
we
going
are-
with George
I-
Clooney.
Listen, I am
I'm
not.
going with George
No,
Clooney.
but I'm like,
George
look what we have now. Is it too far off?
No.
Could he be Trump-like?
That's what I'm saying.
Could he talk like Trump? You just said you would be afraid if Stephen A. was actually the front man for the Democratic Party because it would worry you.
Well, I'm
correct?
saying I want the Democrats to keep doing what they're doing right now.
You don't need a Stephen A. So he's
Everything's
saying
going
don't
very
put
well for
Stephen
the
A there.
Republicans.
So
I'm okay.
Our friend Stephen A. is welcome to join us and finish off this conversation, everyone.
Democracy depends on a free press. Please support our independent journalism at democracynow.org/give.
All right, let's
This is
get some
Democracy
real
Now!,
leftist
democracynow.
I'm so tired of, by the way, the other thing is, on the Central Committee channel, we do not do liberal foreign policy. This is not a stream where we do NATO hawkism. If you're a NATO hawk or an American xenophobe, you're about to get your fucking shit pushed in.
.org, War, Peace, and the Presidency. I'm Amy Goodman. We turn now to Munich, Germany, where a high-level security conference with dozens of world leaders is underway. At the top of the agenda, Russia-Ukraine war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to meet with Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio today. Earlier this week, President Trump said he would hold bilateral talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the nearly 3-year-long war. The announcement stoked fears in Europe that Ukraine would be sidelined in the talks. This is the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, speaking last night at a news conference in Berlin.
Nothing should be decided about Ukraine without the Ukrainians, and nothing about Europe without the Europeans. That is a given. We agree on this with all our friends and partners in Europe. One thing is absolutely clear to me. Any negotiated solution must enable Ukraine to have armed forces at its disposal in the future that can repel any renewed Russian attack. This is a considerable challenge financially, materially, and logistically. This would exceed Ukraine's financial capabilities for the foreseeable future. We Europeans and our transatlantic and international partners are needed here.
On Thursday, President Trump walked back his initial comments and told reporters Ukraine would, of course, be a party to talks with Russia. Vice President J.D. Vance told the Wall Street Journal that the U.S. could slap Moscow with sanctions and even use, quote, military tools of leverage if Vladimir Putin does not agree to a deal guaranteeing Ukraine's long-term independence. Vance told the Wall Street Journal he plans to tell European leaders to embrace populist parties, stop mass migration, and curb progressive policies. Vance will not be meeting with the German chancellor, who's the host of the conference. Meanwhile, over 40 protest rallies are planned against the security conference in Munich this weekend. For more, we're joined in Munich by two guests. Melanie Schweitzer is a lawyer who works at the German Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, a member of the Progressive Party, Mira 25, running for a parliamentary seat in the elections later this month. And we're joined by Yanis Varoufakis, former finance minister of Greece. His most recent book, Techno-Feudalism: What Killed Capitalism. He's scheduled to speak at one of the protest rallies in Munich Saturday. Their slogan, peace capable instead of war capable. Yanis Varoufakis, we'll start with you. What exactly does that mean? And what is your overall message in Munich right now, where you have the new Vice President of the United States and new Secretary of State? Of course, they're not the only members. The message, the top story now is the Russia-Ukraine war.
Well, Amy, Europe used to be a wonderful peace project. The whole point of bringing together different nations into the European Union was supposedly to make sure that there would be no more war in Europe. Unfortunately, cornered by two different authoritarianisms, the authoritarianism of Putin on the one hand and the expansionary warmongering forces within the US-led NATO alliance, Europe has been caught in a frenzy of warmongering, essentially. To think about it, Amy, that that is the European Union's chief defense and security spokesperson, the former Prime Minister of Estonia, Kaja Kallas, only 2 weeks before she got this position, had advocated the breakdown and the breakup of the Russian Federation. This was like a call for war. So we are here in Munich to demonstrate this conversion of the European Union into a war union. And don't forget that this Munich Security Conference, so to speak, is effectively a very bizarre bazaar for weaponry. All the most ambitious war merchants and arms dealers of the world have gathered here supposedly to discuss peace. We're here in order to impose a peace narrative upon them.
Can you talk about what Trump is talking about with making a proposal around the nuclear stockpiles of China, Russia, and the United States, Yanis?
Well, Trump's motives are always suspect. The idea of negotiating for warmongering forces within the US-led NATO alliance, Europe has been caught in a frenzy of warmongering, essentially. To think about it, Amy, that that is the European Union's chief defense and security spokesperson, the former Prime Minister of Estonia.
What? I hit the button. Do you guys know what time it was at? Fuck.
Who's the host of the conference. Meanwhile, over 40 protest rallies are planned instead of
nations into the European Union was supposedly to make sure that there would be no more war in Europe. Unfortunately, cornered by two different authoritarianisms, the authoritarianism of Putin on the one hand and the expansionary warmongering forces within the US-led NATO alliance, Europe has been caught in a frenzy of warmongering, essentially. To think about it, Amy, that that is the European Union's chief defense and security spokesperson, the former Prime Minister of Estonia, Kaja Kallas, only 2 weeks before she got this position, had advocated the breakdown and the breakup of the Russian Federation. This was like a call for war. So we are here in Munich to demonstrate this conversion of the European Union into a war union. And don't forget that this Munich Security Conference, so to speak, is effectively a very bizarre bazaar for weaponry. All the most ambitious war merchants and arms dealers of the world have gathered here supposedly to discuss peace. We're here in order to impose a peace narrative upon them.
Can you talk about what Trump is talking about with making a proposal around the nuclear stockpiles of China, Russia, and the United States, Yanis?
Well, Trump's motives are always suspect, and his negotiations may come to naught. But the idea of a negotiated climb down from the heights of this nuclear confrontation. Remember that the nuclear clock is very, very close to midnight now. The nearest it has been.
Like Varoufakis, he called techno-feudalism. Like, it's crazy. Like, he's been saying this for like 5 years now. And like, we literally got it immediately. Like, we immediately got it. All the big tech bros, but at the time we were all like, you know, Joe Biden supporters, that he first started talking about techno-feudalism, have all just become fucking fascists in exactly the way he predicted. Like, honest to God, Giannis's like predictions were so dead balls on accurate, like it's almost uncanny. It's like time traveler shit.
In the last 50 or 60 years. That is not a bad idea to have this kind of...
well, welcome, HHF. Welcome in, bud. Glad to have you here. Have fun the rest of your day, bro. I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific for the Central Committee stream. Welcome in. You've been following for a while, so welcome in, bud.
Tripolar, if you want, tri-party negotiation. But of course, who knows what that might lead to, given that Donald Trump is constantly flooding the zone with uncertainty for a number of very, very suspect objectives.
I want to bring Melanie Schweitzer in this conversation, member of the Progressive Party, Mira 25, running for a parliamentary seat in the elections later this month. I said that you worked for a lawyer working for the German Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. Can you talk about the pressure you've been under and what's happened?
Yes, thank you very much. Hi, Amy. Thank you for giving us space to speak here. I think the situation in Germany at the moment is really dire. There is a blatant attack on freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. We see a dismantling of the rule of law in Germany at the moment, a crisis of democracy, and we really very much fear the upcoming elections in 10 days. And we actually think that this might be the last election before fascism, because the center parties, especially the Social Democrats, the Green Party, also the Left Party, they have taken over the rhetoric of the far right, not just the rhetoric, but also the policies. So they have made 2 new resolutions against freedom of speech. They have banned Francesca Albanese from speaking at universities this and next week, the politicians. So they have done a crackdown on the protests and anti-war movement, anti-genocide, violence movement. Last week, it was banned to talk any language except English and German, and that was due to lies spread by Axel Springer, the biggest right-wing newspaper in Germany that is constantly going after people, doxing people. So anyone basically who speaks out in Germany at the moment against the Israeli war crimes against the government is
Melanie
being
is
subjected
awesome.
to political repression and also private and political doxing, where people lose their jobs. But when on the other side you can express genocidal rhetoric without fearing any consequences. So this is why I'm a candidate. This is why I became politically active, because I think this is really very serious. And as a German with the German history, you know, I feel compelled to speak up when in the face of oppression and injustice, and especially being a lawyer, being trained to uphold the Constitution and thereby international law. And just to give you two recent examples of like how this is being normalized here, this hate speech. There was just recently a Jewish person, a journalist, being.
It's crazy here. Police were following Albanese around everywhere she went, whole being in Germany. She is a UN representative. Fascism has been spread by the Israeli government. And that's one of the things that's so crazy. One of the things that's like one of the grand ironies of history is how Israel served as the place that fascism festered. It's crazy.
Accused of indictment of hatred because he was simply saying a sentence that we as Jewish, we are not victims, you know. So whenever someone speaks up against this whole witch hunt, they become prosecuted. And then just yesterday, the Ministry of Interior tweeted a tweet proudly saying that now in Germany we're the only country who deports people to Afghanistan. And they were proud about this, and there was a huge backlash about this post, that how can you be proud as a European country to deport to Afghanistan? And they were saying where the Taliban is ruling, you know. And today the chancellor was giving an interview, and the journalist was asking him, so what do, you know, if the International Criminal Court comes to the conclusion that this was genocide in Gaza? And he said, I'm not going to answer these questions. It's not possible. It will not happen. And he said, it's absurd. It's just not going to happen, you know. And
Melanie Schweitzer, have you been suspended from the German Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs?
Yes, actually I have. So I had been voicing my opinion and this on Twitter with my name, and then I had been doxxed and found out that I was working at the ministry. And then I was on holidays in December, and as soon as I was supposed to come back in January, I was suspended from work with immediate effect. So ever since this newspaper article from Axel Springer and Bild-Zeitung came out, I never set one foot again into the ministry. And I still have no idea why, actually, because the only thing that I am aware of is that I was expressing my opinion about the ongoing genocide, and that I'm not, that this has to stop, and that Germany has to stop delivering weapons, and that there have to be sanctions against Israel.
I wanted to go back to Yanis Varoufakis and talk about Elon Musk. Some are calling him the ex-president, not the former president of the United States, but the letter X, as he owns one of the largest, obviously, social media platforms in the world. X and stands next to the president in the Oval Office, seems to be making a lot of the decisions. Also leading meeting with foreign leaders, and in Germany just held this 2-hour freewheeling conversation with AfD, supports AfD. If you could describe this party in Germany that has risen so rapidly, would you describe it as a neo-Nazi party, and the role, as you talk about techno-feudalism, of Elon Musk?
Well, to begin with the Alternative for Deutschland, the Alternative for Germany, it is a party which started life as a Eurosceptic party against the idea of a common currency. It used many tropes and many turns of phrase that alluded to a Nazi past. It would be wrong to call it a Nazi party or a neo-Nazi party. It would be right to refer to them as an ultra-conservative, racist, xenophobic party, which alludes to the dark era of the Nazi period. Regarding Musk as a techno-feudal lord, you have to remember that Musk is one of the latecomers to what I call techno-feudalism. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Google, Microsoft were the pioneers of techno-feudalism. They created these digital fiefdoms in which we're encased, and there is massive exploitation of everyone, of people who sell stuff on Amazon, of newspapers and media outlets like your good selves, whose work is being usurped. But Musk was a standard capitalist. He was producing cars. He was producing rockets, not a very standard product, but nevertheless, an industrial era product. And then he jumps on the bandwagon of Twitter. He buys it because he wants to connect his capitalist empire with what I call cloud capital, with this algorithmic capital, which has this remarkable capacity to alter our behavior, to modify our behavior. And anyone who
covers what I mentioned about Francesca saying she was wondering if she'd be able to leave. It said she was looking forward to getting back to Tunisia. I mean, yeah, going to Germany right now is probably a bad idea.
Who owns that capacity, that power, and that capital, that cloud capital, can extract huge rents from the rest of society.
Did you see the Microsoft Quantum announcement? They announced their chip. Microsoft on Wednesday announced Majorana 1, its first quantum computing chip.
And then very quickly, he decided to do that which robber barons always did in the past, which is, of course, to cozy up to government and to gain access directly to political power. So he's a latecomer, but he does move quite quickly, doesn't he?
Well, I wanted to read to you from Reuters and the Wall Street Journal. The man likely to become Germany's next leader warned Elon Musk would face consequences for boosting the far-right AfD, Alternative for Germany, through his social media platform. Friedrich Merz said, what happened in this election campaign cannot go unchallenged. Merz, the front-runner in the polls ahead of the February 23rd election, told the Wall Street Journal, referring to what he sees as Musk's interference in Germany's election. Musk repeatedly calling on X for Germans to vote for AfD, saying it could save the country. And your response, for example, when you're looking at Germany right now and you look at what's happened in the United States, that Nazi salute that that Elon Musk gave several times at a Trump rally.
Well, it's mind-boggling that we should be witnessing these scenes today, especially from the South African mafia behind the PayPal mafia. Remember, people who grow up with apartheid in their heads. But allow me to make a comment about Friedrich Merz, who will be the next Chancellor of Germany, according to the opinion polls, and whom you mentioned as having turned against Elon Musk and having accused Elon Musk, quite correctly, for giving a platform to the leader of the Alternative for Deutschland, for Germany. Mr. Merz, even though he's right in putting forward that criticism, is perhaps the epitome of hypocrisy. Because you may have heard that only, 10 days ago, it was he, as the leader of the Christian Democratic Party, that is the leading party in Germany, that went into bed, proverbially, with the Alternative for Deutschland in the parliament of the Federal Republic of Germany in order to pass together his Christian Democratic Union Party and the Alternative for Germany to pass together a xenophobic, racist, toxic bill that was turning against asylum seekers. So this very same man who is going to be the Chancellor of Germany, who is accusing Elon Musk of giving a platform to the ultra-right of the Alternative for Germany, is the one that has already got into political bed with the Alternative for Germany. This is what we've come to. We are now caught up in this agglomeration, in this unholy alliance between the center-right and the ultra-right. And I very much
that was always going to happen. That was always going to happen eventually. Ambitious people in the center-right were going to see that the center was not holding, and their chance for absolute power was always, that's what always happens. You can't trust the liberals. They will betray you.
That after the federal election, in exactly the same way that we've already seen it in Austria, we've seen it in the Netherlands, the ultra-right and the center-right are going to be pushing the political spectrum deeper and deeper into the territory of weaponized misanthropy.
And Melanie Schweitzer, you're running in these elections for the Progressive Party Mira 25, which is new. Explain what it is and the significance of Elon Musk's support and the rise of AfD.
Yes, so Mira 25 is a relatively new party. It was established in Germany in 2021. So this is the first federal election that we are taking part in. It is a socialist, internationalist, anti-imperialist party that is founded, also has behind the movement, the European movement of democracy. 25, so DiEM25, and it is a party that is firmly against militarization, and we believe that we need a movement politically and outside of politics to combat that warmongering that we are seeing, the rhetoric, this preparation of war that feels more and more like 1984, the book, you know, and so we what we see here is also it's an instrumentalization of our past, of our history. You know, so anti-Semitism and reason of state are used to instrumentalize and to weaponize against people who are against this war machine. You know, so we're called radicals for wanting to an end to the violence, for wanting to end weapons delivery. So, you know, between 60 and
this could happen in the UK. It looks like Reform will work with the Tories. What will happen is they will just mature. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in the UK. Reform and the Tories are going to merge into the Reform Conservatives, and they're going to have a unite. They're going to unite. That's it. They might, you know, that's it. And Farage will either be the leader or the co-leader. It's not the left will be splintered in 3 fucking, if not 4 parties. You'll have the dumbass Green Party. You'll have some dumbass independents. You'll have the Lib Dem scum. And you'll also have the dying husk of labor. It's going to be Reform, Conservative. And like, people are like, Reform is already looking like they might get a majority even if they don't form with the Conservatives. I guarantee you they are going to merge. Why can I make that guarantee? I can make that guarantee because the capitalists will tell them to. Is there a place to bet on that? Is there a place where I can bet money that Reform and Conservatives will stand together? Like, I would like to show you. I will put real weight behind that bet. Polymarket? Is there a TYT coupon code for Polymarket? Mikey, you're only pulling 3K viewers. First of all, only? Have you been on Twitch before? Like, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 viewers larger than me, including Hassan is live. There's only 8 Just Chatting streams bigger than me on this entire website. Only? That person is a Sex Pestity fan. My favorite thing for Sex Pestity fans. Hey, Sex Pestity fans. This is why your boy is mad. I want to show you something. When he was on Twitch many, many, many years ago, and he's never getting unbanned, by the way, ever, he was averaging 3,073. March 2022, 3,073. Molestiny.
And 70% of the Germans do not want.
Asmongold pulls more viewers than Hassan and all his orbiters combined. Even if that were true, honest to God, I don't care. He's like one of the he's like one of the largest right wingers. It's going to be a thing. And he got big. He didn't get big from his political takes. He's just one of the oldest streamers, you know? I give him credit for continuing for all these years. I don't know, like, Asmongold is obviously a fascist, but for some reason, he just triggers pity instinct in me. I don't know why. Like, most of the time, I just have this overwhelming hatred of fascists, but there's just something so pitiful about him. Like, he's just a pitiful man. Same thing with XQC. They both have this, like, very pitiful, sad... It's like it's behind their eyes. Like, you look at them and you can see the pain. He's just never been allowed to hug anybody and cry. You know what I mean? That's what he needs. Permission to cry. If Reform combined with the Tories, there's a genuine chance they'll call themselves National Conservatives. I thought they would say Reform Conservatives, but yeah, I think National Conservatives is what they might name themselves. It's a very good point.
weapons deliveries to Israel anymore, and all the parties that are in parliament want that actually and support it. So they are not, they do not respect what their voters want, and they do actually not represent them. And you know, the same goes with nowadays. It is common sense in Germany that anti-Semitism is an Arab issue, when actually, and you know that somehow we have abhorred our history with that, and then it comes that Elon Musk with a Nazi salute. This is being downplayed and not called what it is. But when people in Germany speak up for the rights of the Palestinian people, their right to life, their right to dignity, they are called anti-Semite. So what we see now is we see fascism playing out in real time, and it's getting worse by the day, and it's really worrying and concerning. And it also appears, you know, the media is very much complicit in this. So they would ask, for example, because we are completely anti this movement, they don't give us any space to talk. They don't give us coverage for the upcoming elections. So we, as a party that is against this this war movement, are being marginalized and actually threatened by the police as well. We have been told that we have to inform them if we do any political activity beforehand the election.
Oh my lord! The Pestity lawsuit has hit the wall. Sexpestity lawsuit has hit. The Sexpestity lawsuit has hit the wall. Officially. The first Sexpestity lawsuit has officially become... Wow. We might have to cover this tomorrow. We might have to... It's already so late. We might have to cover this tomorrow, chat. To the honorable court comes plaintiff Jane Doe, and by and through her undersigned counsel, and very respectfully states and alleges and prays as follows. This action seeks to hold defendant accountable for his unauthorized, intentional, and unlawful disclosure and dissemination of extreme emotion, images, intimate images, and sexually explicit videos of the plaintiff, thereby causing plaintiff extreme emotional and physical distress, depression, anxiety, and harm to her personal and professional reputation. Plaintiff seeks injunctive relief, compensatory, excuse me, I can read, punitive damages, attorney fees, and any other relief this honorable court deems just and proper as a result of defendant's unlawful, extreme, and outrageous conduct toward plaintiff. Plaintiff brings claims pursuant to inter alia, the Intimate Image Protection Act, 15 USC 6851, the Sexual Cyber Harassment Statute, Florida Statute Section 7840, Section 784, subsection 049, and other Florida laws pertaining to the right of privacy, public disclosure of private facts, and the intentional infliction of emotional distress. The court has subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to 28 USC Section 1331 because this action arises under the laws of the United States, including 15 USC Section 6851, the Intimate Image Protection Act. The court has supplemental jurisdiction over the plaintiff's state law claims pursuant to 28 USC Section 1367 because they arise out of the same nucleus of operative facts as the federal claims. Venue is proper in this judicial district pursuant to Section 28 USC Section 1391 because a substantial part of the events or omissions giving rise to the claim occurred within this district, and the defendant is subject to personal jurisdiction in this district. Wow. How do you let one streamer... Wait, what is this person saying? How do you let one streamer with cockroaches all over him barely showers pull more viewer than all of Twitch left? Ella giggle. He pulls more viewers than all of Twitch, period. The answer to that is you're just really asking the question about young men in general. I think you're asking a question about young men in general. Like, why are young men attracted to Asmongold? And I think that's a very difficult question to answer from somebody with my point of view. I'm not a young man. I'm a middle-aged man, and we would never have watched somebody like him, if I'm just being honest. So I don't know what's going on with Zoomers, and that's a legitimate, like, I'm out of touch. I don't know why. Like, you'd have to ask Zoomers. Plaintiff Jane Doe is a citizen of the United States and a resident of Miami-Dade County, Florida. Oh. But now had over 700,000 followers on his Twitch channel before he was banned from Twitch in March 2022 due to hateful conduct. Plaintiff began conversing with Bunnell on the Discord platform when she was approximately 19 years old. Bunnell was approximately 33 years old. At the time, Plaintiff was a new streamer in the same niche as Bunnell, politics. Oh man, this is... Whew. All right, we're going to have to cover this more tomorrow, chat. I don't want to cover it now because I'm tired, but we're going to have to go and examine this in detail. I think it's very... Now, a lot of people will be like, Mike, this isn't politics. It absolutely is politics. It's politics because it's the law. It's politics because it's about political streamers. It's politics because it's about misogyny and rape culture. And notice how so many people are trying to cover up for Destiny. So many people are trying to make it okay. He's too important in politics. We can't let his career be ruined because he's a sex criminal. We have an absolute duty to cover this and let every single person know who collaborates with him, that associates with him, that recommends him, that links a link, that links a clip. Every single time you see it, you have got to have those documents in the replies. You've got to have everyone be aware of exactly who he is. Every single time. Don't say somebody else will do it. You need to get in there. This guy is a sex criminal. This guy's being sued for revenge porn. This guy is a freak. This guy takes advantage of young women. Every single fucking time he posts. Every time. Mike, you were in the Hassan Blastoff meme? Son of a bitch! He's large, strong, attractive, funny guy who want to be friends with me. He also has the values to the left. Mike from P. You son of a bitch! You son of a... I just told this artist yesterday that I like his stuff. This son of a bitch just... What? The glazing is black and white, clear as crystal. Son of a bitch! I can't believe Nathan did me like that. I can't believe Nathan Grayson did me like that. All right, let's keep going.
Sunday, the federal election in Germany is going to decide who's going to be chancellor. It will probably be Friedrich Merz if the opinion polls are anything to go by. Mr. Friedrich Merz, the leader of the Christian Democrats, will probably receive double the votes of the current chancellor, the Social Democrat Olaf Scholz, whose unpopularity is monumental. Nevertheless, Friedrich Merz is going to be forced to form a coalition with the Social Democrats, who are currently led by Olaf Scholz. Whether Olaf Scholz will remain in that government as a diminished figure or whether he will retire or seek another post, we can't tell. What we know is that there's going to be a coalition of the Christian Democrats with the Social Democrats, maybe the Greens, and all that because this is the manner in which the center of German politics, the center-right and the center-left, get together in order to keep the Alternative für Deutschland, the neo-fascist party, which is in the ascendancy, from the corridors of power. Tragically, that doesn't prevent fascism and totalitarianism from seeping into the fabric of the German state. Under the Social Democrats and the Christian Democrats and the Greens and the Free Liberals, I have personally experienced the totalitarian aspects of the German government, of the German police in particular, up close and personally. But I shall come back to this later. The precise composition of the coalition government will depend on which of three parties that are now teetering around the 5% cutoff point. You need to get 5% in Germany in order to get any members of parliament elected. And there are about three parties: the old Die Linke party, the party of the left, not particularly lefty, the Free Democrats, the liberals, who are essentially a voice for big capital in Germany, and a new party around Sarah Wagenknecht, a former left-winger, who's now trying out a form of xenophobia mixed with some social democratic policies. These three parties, if they all get in, or two out of three of them, this is going to reduce the capacity of Merz to form a coalition. Maybe he will need to bring in the Greens as well as the Social Democrats. What are the real changes we should expect after next Sunday, beyond the reconfiguration of who is in the ministries? Not that many, I'm afraid. Recall that the Christian Democrats and the Social Democrats ruled together under a Christian Democrat Chancellor, Angela Merkel, for more than a decade. During that decade, the current policies were set in stone. It was a decade that cemented austerity for the many, for the majority of people, not just in Germany, but across Europe, and mind-boggling money printing for the very, very few, for the oligarchy. It was a combination that crushed investment, caused Germany to fall behind China and the United States when it comes to new technologies, green technologies?
I mean, the reason why Germany is failing is because they had a conservative party that made them hook to Russian gas, and then they got cut off from Russian gas. I mean, it was a perfect checkmate that only kind of center-right politics could ever think was a good idea. And unfortunately, the Stoplight Coalition won, and they were liberal austerity losers. And they made everything worse. And they doubled down on warmongering foreign policy as the poodle for the United States.
Electric batteries, electric vehicles, solar panels, wind power. It was a decade whose policies led to today's deindustrialization across the heartlands of Germany. Will this coalition of Christian Democrats and Social Democrats do better this time? No chance. I assign zero probability to that. They will be more cruel toward migrants in a bid to exploit the racism which is rising up through the fabric of German society. They are likely to relax their idiotic debt rules that this coalition of Social Democrats and Christian Democrats introduced 15 years ago to the detriment of Germany and to the detriment of Europe. And that's only because the numbers don't add up. They are in a very serious fiscal crisis, and they need to pay for more guns and weaponry as imposed upon them by Washington, D.C., by the United States. What should China expect from this new government? If Kamala Harris had won the presidency of the United States, China should expect Merz's Germany to fall even more behind America's strategies.
This long AP on the Israeli use of U.S. cloud and AI for targeting. Cloud and AI are the bombs and bullets of the 21st century, except they're not. All that AI does is give you a legal fig leaf to attack civilians. The bombs and bullets of the 21st century are bombs and bullets. This AI targeting shit is just a fig leaf to justify mass slaughter. So if you want to defeat AI and cloud, you know what you need? Guns and ammo and bombs. And that's what the Chinese, you know, the other thing is like, the United States cannot defeat China. It's already over. This is like, honestly, what we're living through is like what Japanese people lived through when they bombed Pearl Harbor. That's all that's it's already over. China has already won and will win. It's done. The United States is doing the economic equivalent of a bombing Pearl Harbor. That was the Biden administration. And why did the Japanese Navy attack Pearl Harbor? Because they had at the time a qualitative and quantitative advantage in the Navy. If they were able to inflict serious damage to the US Navy while it was anchored at Pearl, they would have superiority in the Pacific. The problem is Pearl Harbor was highly successful. They sunk almost the entire battleship fleet. The problem is that the United States of America had so much more shipbuilding and industrial capacity and population than Japan, that even though Japan won amazing strategic victories on the battlefield, strategic and tactical victories, they just, at the end of the day, the industrial might and the economic advantage of the United States was unbeatable. And similarly with China, it's the same shit. It's already over. And the United States, as China is building their state capacity, as China is building up their state-owned enterprises, as China is investing in things like nuclear fusion and space travel and high-speed rail and high-quality housing and infrastructure, and they're building the largest electric dam in the history of the human race. As China is building up on renewable energy and batteries and microchips, the United States of America is dismantling our science research. The United States of America is mass firing our most senior government officials. The capacity of the American state is being hollowed out. There is no way the United States is going to be able to take on China. It is already over. If Bernie Sanders had won in 2016 and done a Green New Deal, well, then the United States would have been able to compete with and possibly even contain China. But he did not win. And the United States, ever since Bernie Sanders' defeat in 2016, has gone at light speed toward destroying our soft and hard power and lowering the standard of living of Americans, of increasing wealth inequality and corruption. It's been an utter disaster. And it's not going to get better. Like, you think cutting the government is going to make Americans richer? You think it's going to make America's military stronger? You're crazy. We're actually purging CCP spies from our sciences. Notice how all the scientists and mathematicians are leaving to China? That's funny, Cope.
Including the demand by Washington that Berlin decouples from China, puts the brakes on German companies investing in China, even agreeing with the suicidal policies of the European Union, of Brussels, to impose ridiculous tariffs on Chinese exports, particularly electric vehicles, solar panels, all those things that Europe cannot produce, but it does need. Merz would have been more amenable to agreeing to all that if Kamala Harris had won the White House. But with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance essentially blowing up the transatlantic alliance, there is a slight chance that the Merz government will realize that what the United States wants of it is totally clashing with the interests of Germany. And therefore there's a slight chance that Mr. Merz is not going to acquiesce to the demands by Washington that Germany moves away from China and cuts off more and more its trade links with China. Then again, German leaders and European leaders more generally have proven their cowardice again and again. So don't be surprised if Friedrich Merz bows his head and says yes to all the things that Donald Trump will order him to say and do against the interests even of German industrial capital. While still on Germany, let me go back to something I was saying earlier, the terrible news about the emergence of a totalitarian police state in Germany. This morning, today, as I speak, the movement that I belong to, DiEM25, the Democracy in Europe movement, had organized a meeting for this afternoon to discuss Palestine. The keynote speaker was going to be Francesca Albanese, the exquisite United Nations rapporteur on the Palestinian territories, an event that was co-sponsored with a German Jewish organization called the Jewish Voice for a Just Peace in the Middle East, as well as Amnesty International. This morning, early in the morning, the police informed our DiEM25 organizers that policemen and women will be sitting in the audience monitoring every word that will be spoken. To make things worse, before the event was due to start, the police barricaded our venue and told our organizers that they would not be allowed to enter. Since then, organizers have found another venue and are calling attendees to make their way to it. This is a clear and present dissolution of any semblance of democracy, not to mention free speech, in the heart of Europe. Democracy is now just a word in Germany. In a Germany slipping inexorably into a totalitarian abyss, like in the past. And sadly, the federal election this coming Sunday is not going to change that. Thank you for listening.
All right, everybody, that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to send you guys, gals, non-binary pals over to VO. VO is in 90-day fiance trash TV day. Thank you so much for supporting this stream. You guys are so awesome. Tomorrow we are going to be spending, just fair warning, chat, that we are going to be spending some time tomorrow going into the legal and ethical implications of Destiny's legal case, the political ramifications, and we will be covering it extensively tomorrow. I want to make sure that everybody is aware that the place for the Destiny lawsuit will be here tomorrow, and we're going to do everything we can to show support for the victim. All right, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever. That's how socialism will win. And remember, from the river to the sea, all of Palestine will be free.